Chapter 2893, Explosion, 3. Hearing the demon's words, Len Ruoxue felt even more guilty. In fact, she had been awake the whole time, but she was too immersed in her own thoughts. Therefore, even if she heard the demon's voice, it was like a projection, making her unable to divert her attention to respond. Everything that had happened during the pill refining process was like a movie that kept on flashing past her mind. It was only now that she was able to regain her senses. She reached out and hugged the evildoer. Len Ruoxue didn't know what words she could use to express how touched she was. At this moment, Song, who was unwilling to be ignored, also spoke with a slightly choked voice, "Girl, are you trying to scare me to death?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Len Ruoxue gently stroked Song's fur and said apologetically. "You can't be blamed for this. It's all that bastard Qing Ju's fault. He knew that the medicinal ingredients would explode, but he didn't tell you." "Humph. He's the worst, no, don't bother with him in the future." Song took the opportunity to sow discord. "Humph. As expected, he knows." After confirming his guess from Azure's mouth, evildoer was also furious. "Don't be angry. I believe Qing Ju has his own reasons." Seeing that the demon and Sung Du were angry because Green Vessel did not warn them in advance, Len Ruoxue could only play the peacemaker. However, deep down, she also felt that Qing Ju was really a bastard who tricked her sister. "Girl, you're actually speaking to him." Azure's face was filled with jealousy, and evildoer's expression was not good. Helplessly, Len Ruoxue's thoughts changed and she brought the human and beast into the bangle. When he felt the fluctuation of space and the familiar aura, Green Vessel was so excited that he came out from a corner and appeared in a flash. He then hugged Len Ruoxue's thigh tightly and wailed. "Woo! Sister, Qing Ju knows his mistake. Qing Ju just wants you to figure it out yourself, really." Qing Ju explained as he cried like a little cat. "My ass. You just want to watch Nio's show." After hearing this, Song immediately roared. It would not believe Green Vessel's explanation. "No, no. I'm really doing this for my sister's good." In the past, the old master had been bombarded many times when he was refining artifacts, so I didn't say anything. Qing Ju was afraid that Len Ruoxue would not believe him, so he even brought up the embarrassing story of the imperial family. After hearing this, Len Ruoxue was even more certain that this little thing was a fellow who had set her sister up. However, since the matter was already in the past, let's just forget about it. However, Len Ruoxue still replied with a serious expression, "Although you want me to experience the properties of the materials in the land of chaos, you could have reminded me in advance. Sister, for this kind of thing, it's better to experience it yourself than to be reminded by others. That's why I didn't say it." Qing Ju continued to reply carefully. Len Ruoxue was depressed. Could she say that Qing Ju's words made no sense? As it turned out, she was not mentally prepared at all. After experiencing the last explosion, she had a deep impression of it that she could not forget it even if she wanted to. "I've already experienced it. Is there anything else I need to take note of? Can you tell me now?" Len Ruoxue sighed and asked helplessly. "I still cannot. It's better for Big Sister to figure it out herself." Qing Ju's mouth was still as tight as a clamshell. Although his sister had suffered a blow previously, he would still not say anything if he was asked to make a new choice. These words nearly drove Len Ruoxue mad. All right. She had to figure it out herself. After bidding farewell to Green Vessel, Len Ruoxue helplessly left the bracelet with evildoer and Sung. After leaving the demon palace, Len Ruoxue planned to go home and take a look at how destroyed it was. However, the demon was worried that Shuai would be provoked again, so he thought of all sorts of excuses to let Shuai continue to stay with him. Len Ruoxue knew what the demon was worried about, so she could only guarantee that she was fine. However, the evildoer was still worried. He reminded Shuai not to be sad no matter what she saw. Hearing the demon's words, Len Ruoxue smiled helplessly. She wasn't that weak, okay? The demon was simply treating her like a fragile glass doll. However, when Len Ruoxue saw the state of her residence, she was still shocked. Ugh! It seemed like all the houses had collapsed. She could tell at a glance that the houses that were standing now were not her work. As for Uncle Long and the others who were busy, they were all stunned when they saw Len Ruoxue appear. They quickly came back to their senses and ran towards Shuer. Shuer, you're finally fine. We were so worried. Uncle Long said with a sigh of relief. Only when Shuer was well would their lives be safe. Otherwise, who knew when a certain man would go crazy? Bad girl, I was so worried. Master Ning's eyes were also wet as he sobbed. I'm sorry to have made everyone worried. Seeing everyone's reaction, Len Ruoxue could only apologize sincerely. At this moment, the great elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters and the others also rushed over after hearing the news. However, they were not as emotional as Uncle Long and the others. The great elder even directly held Shuer's hand and said, "Little girl Shuer, you've come at the right time. Quickly come with us to refine our weapons." After he finished speaking, he did not give the crowd a chance to react. He pulled Len Ruoxue and ran. What the hell is this? Uncle Long said speechlessly as he watched the two of them. Hee hee. Lu Feng didn't know how to respond and could only smile foolishly. He then gave the others a look and the few craftsmen quickly disappeared just like when they came. Thanks, they escaped really quickly. Master Ning was also speechless. Let them go. Although he was left behind, this time, the evildoer was not angry. He really hoped that Shuer could forget about the previous explosion and devote herself back to alchemy and forging. The great elder and the others were not only proficient in alchemy and forging, but they were also very knowledgeable, so they could guide Shuer. To put it bluntly, he was still worried that Shuer would have a shadow in her heart. But in reality, Len Ruoxue wasn't as weak as he thought. Even though she had suffered a blow, after a long period of thinking, she had completely pulled herself together. Otherwise, she wouldn't have woken up from her dazed state. After being pulled by the Grand Elder to a newly built courtyard dedicated to pill and tool refinement, he said with an embarrassed expression, Shuer, it's okay to have an explosion while refining pills. In the past, I also had an explosion when I was refining a weapon. This is normal, don't take it to heart. Yeah, I won't take it to heart. Len Ruoxue laughed lightly. She knew that First Elder was only trying to comfort her. As for whether he had really exploded because he was refining a weapon back then, she had no way of finding out. At this moment, Lu Feng and the rest had also returned. When they saw Len Ruoxue, they said the same thing. Did all of them explode when you were refining pills and weapons? Blinking her eyes, Len Ruoxue deliberately asked with a smile that was not a smile. Ah. Of course. It's not a big deal, it's normal. Lu Feng said with a disapproving look. Seeing him exaggerate so much, the First Elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters and the others began to break out in cold sweat. Their hearts were beating like drums. They didn't know if Shuer would believe them if they said so. He stole a glance at Len Ruoxue. He seemed to believe it. How could Len Ruoxue not believe it? Since the other party had already said so, she naturally had to cooperate. Otherwise, it would be a waste of these people's efforts. However, she couldn't deny that she was quite touched at this moment. After some thought, she said to the First Elder and the others in front of her, Green Vessel told me that the materials in the Land of Chaos will explode. The Armament Guild headquarters First Elder and the others were dumbfounded. What did this mean? It will explode? Can't you just let me enjoy refining pills and forging equipment? Looking at Len Ruoxue, the few professionals who were present did not know what to say. This matter was really depressing. Shuer, what should we do? After a long time, the First Elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters, who was out of ideas, asked. I'm thinking if I should send you back to Demon City, Len Ruoxue probed. However, that was what she really thought. A bomb that could explode was as unstable as a time bomb. If it hurt First Elder and the others, she would definitely feel guilty. More importantly, the First Elder and the others' bodies were not as strong as hers. Even though the materials from the explosion could not hurt her, Leng Ruoxue could not guarantee that First Elder and the others would not be injured. Who knew when those materials would explode? What if the fucking materials were to drop? Leng Ruoxue didn't even dare to imagine the consequences. However, when the First Elder and the others heard this suggestion, their expressions all changed. It was obvious that they were all unwilling to go back. Shuer, it's not that serious, right? First Elder asked carefully. I can't guarantee that, Leng Ruoxue replied honestly. In reality, when the materials exploded earlier, she didn't even have the time to react, so she was afraid that First Elder and the others would be injured. Hearing Shuer's uncertain tone, the First Elder of the Craftsmen's Guild looked at each other and then said in unison, "We're not going back." Even if the materials would explode, they would stay here to witness the historical moment. After all, this opportunity was too rare. More importantly, their interest in the materials from the land of chaos far exceeded their fear of explosions. To put it bluntly, this was a group of people who wanted materials more than their lives. Seeing how stubborn they were, Leng Ruoxue started to think if she should send them back by force. However, when she saw First Elder and the rest's eager and hopeful eyes, she could not help but nod and agree to let them stay. Upon seeing this, First Elder and the others were happy. Leng Ruoxue was a little depressed. But since she had already decided, she would not regret it. Together with First Elder and the rest, she recompleted the semi-finished product for the residents and handed the follow-up work to Uncle Long and the rest. Leng Ruoxue then led First Elder and the rest to restart her bitter path of alchemy. This time, with the previous experience, everyone's expectations for the melting of materials in the land of chaos were significantly reduced. This was especially so for Leng Ruoxue. She had already quickly concluded the reason for the explosion of the ingredients and was now paying attention to the control of the fire. When melting the ingredients for the second time, Leng Ruoxue would adjust the heat at any time. With the previous experience, the melting of the two herbs in the land of chaos went much smoother. Half a year later, the materials had already reached the last moment of melting. At this moment, the alchemy room was already filled with onlookers. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the two stubborn medicinal herbs that were about to melt in the pill furnace. This time, please don't let it explode. Chapter 2894, Qing'er's Dilemma. 1. Everyone was praying in their hearts, but at the same time, they were extremely nervous. Under everyone's anticipation, the medicinal ingredients that had already dissolved into liquid did not explode. However, everyone still held their breaths nervously, afraid that they would scare the medicinal liquid that had just dissolved. They stared at it for a long time until they were certain that the medicinal liquid would not explode again. Only then did they feel relieved. At the same time, the other medicinal ingredients that Leng Ruoxue had added in were also melting at an extremely fast speed. When they saw the speed at which the other medicinal herbs were dissolving, the people present couldn't help but sigh. If only the two medicinal herbs in the land of chaos could be as obedient as the other medicinal herbs. Unfortunately, this could only become their dream. After an unknown period of time, the medicinal herbs that Leng Ruoxue had prepared for the trial were finally all melted. Then, it was time to remove the impurities and purify them. Finally, it was pill condensation. Every step of the pill refining process was extremely important. And if there was a mistake in any step, it could cause the pill to change. For example, failure in pill refinement or a drop in the quality of the pill. In the process of congealing the pill, the heat control was equally important. After Leng Ruoxue adjusted the heat, she started to wait nervously. However, after a long time, the pill that everyone was looking forward to was completed. The unique fragrance of the pill did not come out from the pill furnace. Instead, they smelled a faint burning smell. Was this a failure? Everyone thought in unison. However, none of them dared to say it out loud, afraid that they would hurt Leng Ruoxue. However, Leng Ruoxue was definitely not as weak as they thought. At this moment, she already knew that her pill refinement had failed. Opening the furnace, Len Ruoxue saw that the medicinal liquid in the furnace had already condensed into black lumps. She calmly threw away the black rubbish and said to the crowd, "I'll think about it first. Don't disturb me during this time." With that, Len Ruoxue flashed into the bracelet. This time, even the evildoer was left outside. Seeing this scene, everyone's faces all had a look of regret. What a pity. He had almost succeeded. Then, they instantly felt the temperature in the alchemy room drop, which scared them so much that they hurriedly formed teams to leave. Sob. The mistress of the dark world was about to turn into an ice mountain again. It was too terrifying. Everyone was so frightened by the evildoer that their little hearts were trembling, but in reality, the evildoer was not as angry as they thought. However, it was a fact that he had been ignored and left behind, so his little temper still came up. Then, the furious evildoer also turned around and left. At the same time, Len Ruoxue locked herself in the purple bamboo house. With her master's notes on alchemy in her hands, Len Ruoxue carefully searched for the part related to the Chaos Divine Pill. In fact, although her master had never refined Chaos Divine Pills before, he had studied them and had a half-finished pill formula. The herbs she had used to refine Chaos Divine Pills before were based on her master's scattered pill formulas and her own conclusions. However, it had not been easy for the herbs in the land of chaos to not explode, but the refinement of the Chaos Divine Pill had not been successful. This made Len Ruoxue rather depressed. However, she was not someone who would be discouraged by setbacks. On the contrary, difficulties would only stimulate her ambitions. Normally speaking, in addition to the heat control, the type of medicinal ingredients and proportion were equally important. After Len Ruoxue's control of fire had reached the point of perfection, she focused on the types of medicinal herbs and their ratios. The two main herbs that she had used to refine the Chaos Divine Pill were the two main herbs that her master had mentioned in the semi-finished pill recipe. The other herbs were just some supplementary herbs. If the main ingredient was correct, then the problem should be with the supplementary ingredients. Was the type of supplementary ingredients wrong, or was the ratio wrong? When she thought about the possibility of these two reasons causing the pill refinement to fail, Len Ruoxue's head started to throb. Thanks, this was because there were only two main ingredients, but there were at least 10,000 supplementary ingredients. However, the process of refining elixirs, especially those that no one had ever refined before, was bound to be extremely long. Len Ruoxue was mentally prepared for this. After she regained her spirits, Len Ruoxue took out her bracelet again. The space in the alchemy room fluctuated slightly, and the demon appeared instantly. Looking at Len Ruoxue, the evildoer was filled with resentment. Len Ruoxue looked at the situation and knew that this fellow was going to beat Tsundere again. Sure enough, as soon as she had this thought, the demon complained, "You actually abandoned me, speak. How are you going to compensate me?" Ha ha ha. Demon, didn't I say I wanted to calm down? Can you stop? After I've completed the heaven-defying incantation and destroyed that foggy bitch, I'll accompany you every day until you're annoyed. Len Ruoxue laughed as she coaxed. Even though Len Ruoxue's words were not considered sweet talk, the evildoer still felt comfortable after hearing them. However, he still said fiercely, "I won't be annoyed, never." Good. He wouldn't be annoyed. Once we're done with the ripple mist bitch, I'll stick to you every day. Len Ruoxue continued to guarantee. Yes, you said it. You can't go back on your words. The demon's eyes flashed as he asked with uncertainty. I promise I won't go back on my word. Len Ruoxue said seriously. Then you can continue to refine pills. I won't disturb you anymore. I'll just sit and not talk. The demon said like an obedient child, but he was extremely proud in his heart. He finally got Shuai'er's promise, hee. Seeing that she had appeased the evildoer, Len Ruoxue was relieved. She sat back in front of the pill furnace and began her pill refining journey with full concentration. Fiend City in the Divine Realm. In the garden of the Leng family's main residence, there were a few men in black who were so bored that they were panicking. One of them was half lying and half sitting, and his bones seemed to have broken. The expression on his face was listless. This person was none other than Mu Li. Why aren't Leng Ruoxue and the rest back yet? After a long time, Mu Li finally spoke. I don't know, the man at the side replied with a cold face. AI. It's so boring. Mu Li said again. Unfortunately, no one paid attention to him this time. In fact, the few people present had already gotten used to Mu Li's occasional whimpers. Normally, during the time when Leng Ruoxue and the others were away, Ming Ji and the others were still normal. The only one who was abnormal was Mu Li previously. When the regulations of the heaven and earth were staying here, Mu Li was quite like a normal person and often hid in the room and did not go out. However, the regulations of the heaven and earth had a lot of work to do, so they naturally could not stay here often. Once the regulations of the heaven and earth left, Mu Li would become this disdainful appearance. He was really hopeless. No. If he wanted Mu Li to return to normal, he would have to wait for Leng Ruoxue and the rest to return immediately. However, that was impossible. However, this time, they had left for quite a long time. In the blink of an eye, several decades had passed. Thinking of this, Minga felt a little worried. In order to be a responsible guard for Leng Ruoxue and the others, he had not left Demon City for a long time to wander around the Divine Realm. Chapter 2895, Qing Er's Dilemma, 2. The others seemed to have sensed Ming's thoughts, and suddenly, the atmosphere in the garden turned heavy. At this moment, a huge white tiger ran in from the outside in a panic. Before it could stand still, the white tiger said anxiously, City Lords, I have something to report. This white tiger was the current head elder of the white tiger race. Right now, it already knew the identities of Mu Li and the others, as well as their relationship with Leng Ruoxue. Hence, it was extremely respectful towards them, treating itself as their subordinate. Grand Elder, what's the matter? Hearing the big white tiger's words, Mu Li's eyelids twitched slightly and she asked indifferently. A little phoenix has come to ask for help from Miss Leng, saying that it is on the orders of the elder of the Phoenix tribe. The great elder quickly reported. The Phoenix clan? Aren't the Phoenix clan guarding the foot of the mountain with you? Where did this little phoenix come from? Hearing this, Mu Li couldn't help but frown. That little phoenix is called Qing and it seems to know Miss Leng. He claimed to be an old acquaintance of Miss Leng. The white tiger first elder replied honestly, then added, I've already confirmed Qing Er's identity from the other phoenixes. That little fellow is indeed from the Phoenix clan. However, he has already left home many years ago. I see. Mu Li pondered. This matter seemed to be a little difficult to handle because he wasn't Leng Ruoxue and he couldn't contact her. If that was the case, he wouldn't be able to prove the identity of the little phoenix called Qing. If she was sent by the Fog Ripple sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. Let the little phoenix in. Minga suddenly said. Are you sure? Aren't you afraid that she was sent by the mist? Mu Li raised his eyebrows and asked. What's there to be afraid of? Do you think that bitch, Wu Cheng, will catch us and suck our blood? Ming Ji teased. Their blood was not good to drink. It was filled with the aura of the Netherworld prison. If the mist ripple really drank their blood, she would definitely have indigestion. That's true. Hearing Ming Ji's words, Mu Li also laughed. Not long after, Qing was carried in. The moment Mu Li saw Qing, his eyes widened in disbelief. Wasn't this little fellow in a sorry state? His clothes were in a mess, and he was covered in wounds. He was also unconscious. How were they going to interrogate him? First Elder, you're giving us a difficult problem. Mu Li sighed and was speechless. Ah. Mu Li City Lord, we don't have any good healing pills on hand. The white tiger First Elder's face was slightly red as he spoke. What he meant was, Muley City Master, I'm counting on you. Mu Li was helpless and glared at the white tiger First Elder. Then, he took out a supreme grade healing pill and handed it to the white tiger in front of him. After receiving the healing pill, the White Tiger Great Elder couldn't help but take a few deep breaths. His heart was choked with sobs. Oh! It smells so good. It was really a good healing medicinal pill. If it could have such a healing medicinal pill, it would be willing to die. At this moment, a single healing elixir had strengthened the White Tiger First Elder's determination to suck up to Leng Ruoxue. Following Leng Ruoxue would give him meat to eat. This was something that all the beasts had already decided on. After reluctantly feeding the pill to the unconscious Qing the White Tiger First Elder still felt some pain in his heart. Mu Li's forehead was filled with black lines when he saw this scene. That pill was his, all right. Why did this tiger's heart ache for her? Thanks. Not long after, Qing woke up. She looked around and saw a few strange men. Qing was on guard. Where is this place? And who are you? It was a good thing she knew the White Tiger First Elder. Otherwise, she would have taken out her weapon to defend herself. You came here on your own, yet you don't know where you are? Mu Li asked with a faint smile when she saw the woman's nervous expression. This is Demon City. Qing asked with uncertainty. Then, she turned to express her gratitude to the White Tiger Great Elder. Great Elder White Tiger, thank you for saving me. Qing will definitely repay this favor one day. Hearing this, a few drops of cold sweat fell from the White Tiger Great Elder's forehead. He quickly said, Little girl Qing I'm not the one who saved you. It's him. The Great Elder of White Tiger pointed at Mu Li. He did not dare to claim the credit. If the city lord of Mu Li's city was displeased, he would be the one in trouble. However, Qing clearly didn't want to give Mu Li the credit, and continued to speak to the White Tiger Great Elder. Then I have to thank you all. If you didn't bring me here to look for Leng Ruoxue, I wouldn't have been able to come here. The White Tiger First Elder was helpless against Qing stubbornness. Woo! Why did Qing this little girl, decide on me? This made it feel quite uncomfortable. After taking a few deep breaths, the White Tiger First Elder said honestly, Little girl Qing I didn't bring you here. In fact, you've already arrived at the foot of the Demon City's mountain. The White Tiger First Elder's words implied that he wanted to say, don't push the credit to me. I can't take it. However, Qing was certain that the White Tiger First Elder had helped her, so she had to thank him no matter what. In the end, she made the White Tiger First Elder depressed and quickly fled the place. Watching the White Tiger Great Elder's back, Qing turned around and said to Mu Li fiercely, Even if you saved me, I won't thank you. I don't need your thanks. Mu Li said nonchalantly. At most, he could ask Leng Ruoxue for a few healing medicinal pills. However, in the face of the little phoenix who didn't want to repay his kindness but treated him as an enemy, Mu Li couldn't help but ask, We know each other? Do we have a grudge? Why are you so hostile to me? We don't know each other, and we don't have any grudges. When Qing heard Mu Li's question, she was stunned for a moment before replying. Mu Li was speechless. Where did the little phoenix's hostility come from? Seeing Mu Li's confusion, Qing shouted again, Who asked you to be Leng Ruoxue's man? Mu Li continued to be speechless. He was on Leng Ruoxue's side, so this little phoenix was hostile towards him. Then why did she come to Leng Ruoxue for help? Wasn't this self-contradictory? He deeply felt that the little phoenix in front of him was really conflicted. In fact, Qing was more than conflicted. He was simply depressed. Even though she didn't really hate Leng Ruoxue, she still had a very strong opinion of her for hurting old Grand Madam. Especially after she found out that Leng Ruoxue was the main culprit who caused the elders of the Feng clan to run away from home, her opinion of Leng Ruoxue grew even stronger. But now, she had no choice but to seek help from Leng Ruoxue. This caused the proud Qing to feel so depressed that she wanted to scratch the wall. But if she didn't look for Leng Ruoxue, who else could she look for? In the entire immortal realm, Qing had thought for a long time, but she still couldn't find a suitable candidate. Those powerful clansmen had already left home a long time ago, so she definitely could not count on them. she did not have the ability to do so either. Hence, even if she was extremely unwilling, she still had to ask Leng Ruoxue for help. More importantly, this was also the intention of those few elders. Initially, Qing wanted to go against her words, but after thinking about it, she couldn't find anyone who could help her, and was even willing to help her. Chapter 2896, Qing Dilemma. 3. Even though she had gone through a lot of trouble to get to Demon City, she was not sure if Leng Ruoxue would be willing to help her. After all, she and Leng Ruoxue did not have a good relationship, and it was the same for the Phoenix clan. Hence, she could not think of a reason why Leng Ruoxue would help her. But even so, she felt that she could not lower her voice and beg Leng Ruoxue, who had caused her clansmen to be unable to return home. She had to bring out the pride of the Phoenix clan. With this thought in mind, the little Phoenix Qing, who had always been well protected, began to act tsundere. All right. I'm Leng Ruoxue's man, so even if I took out an expensive healing pill to save you, you're still not willing to be grateful. Then may I ask this little Phoenix, why are you still here to seek help? Asking your enemy to help you? Do you think that's possible? Mu Li asked after a long time. It's old Grand Madam who asked me to come. He said that if Leng Ruoxue knew, she would definitely show up. Qing was so depressed that she could only bring up her ancestor. Otherwise, she really didn't know how to face her tangled heart. Are you sure? Mu Li sensed something different in her words. Could it be that the old ancestor that the little Phoenix was talking about had some kind of unspeakable relationship with Leng Ruoxue? Mu Li guessed to himself. From time to time, he turned to look at Ming Ji and the others. Seeing that they also had a thoughtful expression, he knew that these guys had the same thoughts as him. Of course. Could the words of the old ancestor be false? What about Leng Ruoxue? I want to see her. Qing nodded with certainty. She's not here. Mu Li said honestly. Not here? How could he not be here? You're not lying to me, right? The Phoenix's life is in danger, don't joke around. The moment she heard that Leng Ruoxue wasn't around, Qing's intuition told her that the man in front of her wanted to take revenge and lied to her. In her desperation, she was so anxious that she was on the verge of tears. She's really not here. She left Demon City a long time ago. If you don't believe me, you can ask your family. Aren't they at the foot of the mountain? Mu Li said unhappily when he saw that he was being doubted. Although he was from the Nine Nether prison, he had never lied, let alone being doubted by a little girl. This made him quite angry, so his tone was not very friendly. But when Qing heard this, she really turned around to confirm it. However, as it was Qing's first time in the newly built Demon City, she was lost in the forest before she could even leave the mountain. Through the light screen, Mu Li saw that the little Phoenix had lost its way, but he did not sympathize with it at all. It was Ming Ji who couldn't stand it anymore and sent a message to the Great Elder of White Tiger, asking him to take Qing out safely. Otherwise, the little Phoenix would probably still be running around in the forest like a headless fly. Once they were out of the forest, Qing didn't waste a single moment as she pulled on a phoenix and asked, "Is Leng Ruoxue really not in Demon City?" "He's not here." Phoenix, who was held back by Qing replied honestly. "Then what are you guys doing here?" Qing asked. "I'm looking after Miss Leng's house." The Phoenix said matter-of-factly. The three clans had long reached an agreement to stay here until Miss Leng returned. They would perform well and strive to leave a good impression on Miss Leng so that they could hug her thigh. "Guard the house. You're noble phoenixes, but you're actually looking after a human's home? Where is your dignity? Where was his pride? Did you feed them all to the dogs?" Upon hearing the Phoenix's reply, Qing was instantly enraged. Even though she had come to seek help from Leng Ruoxue under the orders of her Grand Madam, she had never thought that she was inferior to her. However, the performance of her clansmen had completely disappointed her. The Phoenix clan had always been proud. But now, the Phoenix clan was Leng Ruoxue's watchdog. How could she accept this? At that time, she had fainted after saying a few words to her clansmen. Hence, she did not realize that her clansmen had already set up camp at the foot of Leng Ruox's Demon City mountain. Now that she knew about it, one could imagine the impact it had on her. However, the Phoenix clansman was obviously not happy to hear Qing Er's words, and retorted, "Miss Qing Er, how can you say that? Do you think that the current Phoenix clan is still the noble, beautiful, and superior Phoenix clan of the past? Since the elders all left home that year, the reputation of the Phoenix clan has been greatly reduced. Last time, many of the Phoenix clan's clansmen were captured by that witch, Mist Ripple. If it wasn't for Miss Leng who saved us, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to see us now. Miss Leng is our benefactor, so as a phoenix who will repay kindness, I will never allow you to slander us like this. What's wrong with guarding the door for humans? We're repaying a favor." This phoenix spoke with such confidence that the other phoenixes also chided Qing Er, "Miss Qing Er, we're not like you, who has a noble status and a direct ancestor like the sixth elder to support you. We're just ordinary members of the Phoenix clan, and we don't have any backing. We're also weak. Back then, when you ran away from home, did you consider the situation of ordinary phoenixes like us? What right do you have to blame us now? What's wrong with us guarding Miss Leng's door? Miss Leng saved us. Without her, we would have died long ago. Where was Miss Qing Er at that time? It is. You're speaking as if we've done something wrong. If Miss Qing Er has so much dignity and ability, why would she still come and beg Miss Leng?" The phoenixes chimed in one after another, criticizing Qing Er to the point where she had no place to hide. At this moment, the White Tiger First Elder couldn't stand it anymore and walked over. "Don't talk about Qing Er like that, she just doesn't know our current situation. AI. You can't blame her for this. Great Elder, although we can't blame her entirely, she doesn't have the right to come up and criticize us. At least your White Tiger race still has some elders around, but look at our Phoenix race." As she spoke, the Phoenix choked up and couldn't continue. With one Phoenix taking the lead, the other Phoenixes also recalled the current tragic situation of their own kind. For a moment, all of them burst into tears. Thanks as for Qing Er, she had been too shocked today, and was completely stunned. Seeing this, the White Tiger Great Elder could only pull Qing Er over kindly and explain the current situation of the beast race in the divine realm to her. As he spoke, the White Tiger Great Elder sighed, while Qing Er remained silent. By the time the White Tiger Great Elder finished his long-winded speech, Qing Er's eyes had already turned red. The White Tiger First Elder could only sigh helplessly. He could understand Qing Er's feelings. Whoever found out about their clan's current state would not feel good in their hearts. In comparison, their White Tiger clan was still considered fine. At least they still had him, the Great Elder, around. As for the Phoenix clan, I didn't expect the Phoenix clan to be like this. After a long time, Qing Er sobbed. Although she knew that there were no elders in the Phoenix clan, she thought that the Phoenix King should be there. Who knew that the Phoenix clan was now without a leader? I didn't expect this either. It's all because of that bitch, Wu Yan. The White Tiger First Elder said hatefully. Why doesn't the Phoenix King care about the Phoenix clan? Qing Er couldn't help but ask. Don't mention it, it's a long story. The Great Elder of the White Tiger clan obviously didn't want to talk about this matter, and he hadn't told Qing Er about the Phoenix King's current whereabouts. It was better not to let this little girl know. Otherwise, it was really afraid of causing trouble. Has the Phoenix King fallen? Seeing that the Great Elder of the White Tiger clan didn't mention it, Qing Er could only guess. Your Phoenix King is not dead. She is our prisoner now. Just as the Great Elder of White Tiger was hesitating on how to answer this question, Mu Li's voice suddenly rang in their ears. When he turned around and saw Mu Li and the others, the White Tiger Great Elder left tactfully. You captured the Phoenix King? Qing Er angrily questioned. It wasn't us. To be more precise, it was you who requested for Leng Ruoxue to capture the Phoenix King. However, he brought this upon himself and can't blame anyone else. Mu Li explained with a smile. Why did you capture the Phoenix King? Qing Er asked again. What, little Phoenix, you don't know at all. Go and ask your family. I don't have the time to answer your questions. Mu Li said calmly. After that, he led Ming Ji and the others away quietly, just like they had come. Qing Er's anger rose when she saw that the other party had left just like that. However, she did not forget the reason why she had come here. She adjusted her emotions and admitted her mistake to the clan members. Then, she carefully asked them about the Phoenix King. Facing Qing Er, who was willing to change for the better, these ordinary phoenixes were still very forgiving. Knowing Qing Er's question, they patiently explained the unspeakable conflict between the Phoenix King and Leng Ruoxue. This time, Qing Er finally understood the inside story. The hatred between the Phoenix clan and Leng Ruoxue was as deep as the sea. But now, these ordinary clansmen were guarding Leng Ruoxue's door, and the old Grand Madam had instructed her to seek help from Leng Ruoxue. She even said that Leng Ruoxue was the only one who could help them. Such a fact caused the innocent and impulsive Qing Er to be even more confused. What should she do? It was obviously unrealistic to ask these ordinary clansmen to go with Leng Ruoxue to save the people. However, Leng Ruoxue was not around. Qing Er was at a loss. The great elder of White Tiger could see Qing Er's dilemma, so he gave her an idea to ask the city lord of Muley City for help. Him? That pretty boy. Can he do it? Qing Er was rather suspicious of the White Tiger Great Elder's suggestion. Hearing Qing Er's words, the White Tiger Great Elder's forehead was immediately covered in cold sweat. He pulled Qing Er and said with a face full of fear, "Little girl, don't talk nonsense. Be careful of trouble from your mouth. Didn't your ancestors teach you that you can't judge a book by its cover? You can't judge a person just by their appearance. I can tell you this, the strength of the Muley City Master is definitely stronger than that of your old ancestor." Really? Qing Er was still a little suspicious. She really couldn't tell that the pretty boy was so strong. Why would I lie to you? Now that Miss Leng isn't here, the only people you can ask for help from are the few of them. The White Tiger First Elder said speechlessly. Only now did he realize that some insensible little girls were really not cute. Chapter 2897 Ordinary Chaos Divine Pill 1. But, Qing Er was still a little hesitant after hearing the White Tiger Great Elder's words. She seemed to have offended that annoying man before. Would that man help her? She had heard that humans were vengeful, so Qing Er was not sure if they would stand up for the Phoenix clan. When the White Tiger Great Elder saw that Qing Er seemed to be a little unhappy, he immediately felt a little displeased. According to his thinking, at this time, why are you still putting on the airs of a noble phoenix? Wasn't saving people the #1 priority? Of course, the White Tiger First Elder had made the same mistake. So, even if it was dissatisfied, it only treated Qing Er as an insensible child who had taken the wrong path. Thus, the White Tiger First Elder was very anxious to give Qing Er a chance to admit her mistake. After all, they were all members of the Beast clan, and it really didn't want to see its little friend in any danger. Thus, after thinking for a moment, it continued to persuade, "Little girl Qing Er, there's nothing wrong with listening to the Great Elder. The Great Elder won't harm you. I'm telling you, as long as you lower your stance in front of these people from Demon City, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you've always thought highly of yourself and want to ask for help," the Great Elder of the White Tiger clan had only spoken half of his sentence when he stopped. He believed that Qing Er should have understood his meaning, right? However, Qing Er didn't even think in that direction. When she heard the White Tiger Great Elder ask her to lower her stance, her anger rose again. "Grand Elder, we're the best of the beast race. How can we lower our heads to a human?" Qing Er said with a face full of dissatisfaction. If the other party was Leng Ruoxue, she might have followed the White Tiger Great Elder's instructions. But now that Leng Ruoxue wasn't here, she was truly unwilling to lower her head to a stranger. In particular, she didn't know the man's true strength at all. What if he was just a pretty boy who looked like an embroidered pillow? Wouldn't she be wasting her expression and time? Little girl Qing, the reality is so. We still need the protection of Demon City's residents. What else do you want if you don't lower your stance? If you continue to act high and mighty like before, you'll be thrown out of Demon City. The White Tiger First Elder said with a face full of disappointment. It had been thrown away before. Sob. The White Tiger First Elder choked with sobs as he thought of his own blood and tears. It truly hoped that this little phoenix girl would not make the same mistake as it did in the past and face the people of Demon City with the most sincere attitude. However, it seemed that it would be difficult now. We 4 King Beast clans are noble, aren't we? Besides, I believe that even if I'm the same as before, the people here won't throw me out. Didn't humans have a saying, even if you don't give face to the monk, give face to the Buddha? They won't dare to throw me out for the sake of our ancestor. Qing was full of confidence. When the White Tiger First Elder heard these words, he couldn't help but secretly complain. Who the hell is your family's old ancestor? Even if the human Qilin race made a mistake, they would still throw it away, so what more do you have? Although the White Tiger First Elder was disappointed, he felt that he had already said what he needed to say. He had already done his best. Qing was also a person with endless oil and salt, so the First Elder, who felt that there was nothing more to say, turned around and went to do what he was doing. For a time, Qing was completely ignored. None of the orcs that were stationed at the foot of the Demon City's mountain paid any attention to her. Even if she wanted to talk to orcs, they would say that they had other matters to attend to. As such, she was completely ignored at the foot of the mountain. Qing only realized this after 2 days, and she was so angry that she almost vomited blood. However, Qing had a strong sense of self-esteem. Since no beast was willing to pay attention to her, she wouldn't use her warm face to stick to their cold ass. Thus, in a fit of anger, she entered the forest outside Demon City. She had thought it through. Since Len Ruoxue wasn't around, she could only pull those few men to make up the numbers. Although she still had some doubts about the strength of the unfamiliar men, she could only try as a last resort in the current situation. Qing plan was very good, but before she could reach the Leng family's main residence, she was lost in the forest again. In the garden of the Leng family's main residence. Thanks Mu Li, Ming Ji, and the others were sitting in the garden, watching the little phoenix running around in the forest through the light screen. But this time, no one said anything about rescuing Qing. Several days later, Qing, who was trapped in the forest, was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Driven mad, she simply shouted at the top of her lungs, "Help! Let me out!" In the garden, Mu Li, who saw this scene, laughed very happily. When he was done laughing, he turned around and asked the person beside him, "Do you want to let her out?" "Whatever you want. She won't find trouble with me after she comes out anyway." Ming Ji said, gloating. "You mean, she'll find trouble with me?" Mu Li raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but ask. Yes. Mingo was certain. Over the past few days, he had gained some understanding of the little phoenix's awkward character. The little phoenix was hostile to the people of Demon City, but it had no choice but to seek help. With such conflicting emotions, it would be strange if the little fellow's temper was good. However, little Phoenix's temper was none of his business as long as it didn't provoke him. Of course, he was very willing to see the city lord of Muley City suffer. This was his current state of mind. Seeing that Ming Ji was so certain, Muli's temper also rose, and she said fiercely, "I don't believe you. I'll go get her." After saying that, Muli teleported and disappeared. When he reappeared, he had a human-shaped piece of trash in his hand. Mu Li threw Qing to the ground and sat down in her original position. Qing wasn't prepared for that annoying man to be so rough, and she fell to the ground. Pathetically crawling up from the ground, Qing angrily shouted at Mu Li, You're too much. How can you do this to me? Then how do you want me to treat me?" Mu Li blinked and asked in confusion. "Can't you be gentler?" I'm a noble phoenix after all. Qing continued to shout. A noble phoenix? These 4 words made Mu Li seriously size up Qing. After carefully looking around, he said with a face full of regret, how come I didn't see it? At this moment, Qing was still in a sorry state. She was still in her tattered clothes, so Mu Li couldn't tell that the little phoenix in front of her had the shadow of a noble phoenix. It was more like a phoenix in a sorry state. Qing was very angry, but then she remembered that she didn't look noble at all, so she calmed down. After a long moment of silence, Qing unwillingly opened her mouth and said, You guys, can you help me save my ancestor? We cannot. We have to guard the house. After hearing Qing's words, Mu Li rejected her without even thinking. Are you still a man? You can't even agree to a woman's request. When Qing heard the other party reject her, her anger rose again and she roared with a face full of hatred. Chapter 2898, Ordinary Chaos Divine Elixir, 2, What, if you don't agree to a woman's request, you're not a man. If that's the case, then don't treat me as a man. I don't mind. By the way, not all women's requests will be accepted by men. That man would be dead tired. Mu Li said disapprovingly. Ever since the mistress of the dark world had Netherworld, she had always taught them not to interfere in the affairs of strange women. Otherwise, he would get into trouble. He had always kept this in mind. You can reject other women's requests, but you must agree to mine. Qing's voice was overbearing. Give me a reason. Mu Li said with a smile. Obviously, he was in a good mood. But Ming Ji and the others knew that the city lord of Mu Li City was in the mood to tease the little phoenix because he was too bored. Otherwise, he would have slapped the little phoenix flat. I'm from the Phoenix clan. Qing said after some thought. What's wrong with the Phoenix clan? Was the Phoenix clan very impressive? Then why did you seek help from Demon City? Mu Li said disdainfully. The old ancestor asked me to come. Do you think I wanted to come? Hearing Mu Li's words, Qing's anger began to rise again. You don't want to come, but can you find anyone else to help you? The Phoenix King. Now that he was a prisoner, he was looking for the Ripple Witch. That woman couldn't wait for a phoenix to walk right into her trap. Who else could you be looking for? Mu Li said very honestly. And this truth had provoked Qing. The impulsive Qing felt that she had come here today to be humiliated, so she didn't even think about it and shouted angrily, I'll look for anyone but you. I really regret coming here. You guys can just pretend I never came. I'll leave now. After she finished speaking, the furious Qing turned around and left. What an impulsive little phoenix. Actually, I was just teasing her. Why can't she hold it in? In fact, if she let me teach her a lesson, I might soften my heart and help her. Looking at Qing's back, Mu Li's face was filled with regret. You're just shooting after the horse. He's already gone, so of course you can say whatever you want. Hearing Mu Li's words, Ming Ji rolled her eyes and said. How can this be considered belated effort? I truly thought so. Mu Li said, feeling wronged. However, his words made Ming Ji roll her eyes again. When Ming Song had enough of his contempt, he asked again, Are we really not going to help? This little phoenix's old ancestor might have some sort of relationship with Leng Ruoxue. So what? There's only a few of us in Demon City now. If Ripple Mist sends people to ambush us while we're not around, how are we going to explain this to Leng Ruoxue? Mu Li said with a troubled expression. Why don't we send someone to check on her? After thinking for a while, Mu Li said. Then who should we send? Minga asked calmly. Among the few of them, the Muley City Master was the strongest. Yup. Who should we send? Mu Li's eyes darted around Ming Ji and the others. There's no need to think about it. It's you, City Lord of Muley City. Seeing that Mu Li seemed to be thinking, Ming Ji quickly said. Why should I go? Mu Li was dumbfounded. He looked at their expectant expressions. They all wanted him to do it personally. This bunch of disloyal things. You're the most powerful among us. Minga said matter-of-factly. Shouldn't the most powerful one stay behind to guard the place? Mu Li asked in confusion. Since only one person has been sent, the one with the highest strength should, of course, come forward. Otherwise, if we go instead and fail to save the person, we will have to trouble you to save him instead. Minga said matter-of-factly. Thanks, Mu Li was depressed. This seemed to be a reason. But, I'm not on good terms with that little phoenix. Mu Li reminded. It's okay. Feelings need to be cultivated slowly. It will get better with time. Ming Ji consoled. Seeing that the people in front of him had already made up their minds to let him come forward, Mu Li felt that it was useless to say anything more. Then, he teleported again and disappeared. Is the city lord of Muley City angry? What's going on? The weakest among them asked cautiously. No, I haven tea. He accepted this fact and went to bond with the little phoenix. Minga said with a smile. Hearing Ming Ji's words, the others immediately calmed down. Not long after, the struggling Qing was carried back by Mu Li, and this time, she was also thrown on the ground. Detestable. What are you trying to do? Qing was furious. This guy was really too annoying. He actually caught her again. Humph. So what if you're strong? Qing was furious. I'm helping you, don't you know? A lost little phoenix. Mu Li smiled calmly. Who needs your help? Although I've lost my way, I'll be able to get out in a while. Qing said stubbornly. If I don't help you, you'll never be able to get out of here. Mu Li cruelly exposed Qing fantasy, and then asked, where's your ancestor now? What's the situation? Why should I tell you? When Qing heard this, she reflexively refused to cooperate. If you don't want to save your ancestor, you don't have to say anything. Mu Li said calmly. You're willing to save my family's old ancestor? Qing asked in disbelief. How was this possible? How could this annoying man change his mind? Could it be that a man's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea? Qing was so shocked that her face was filled with disbelief. Her eyes were wide open, and her jaw was about to fall to the ground. Tell me about the situation first. Mu Li had lost his patience. This little phoenix was really not smart. If I tell you, will you help me save my ancestor? Qing asked with uncertainty. You don't understand human language, do you? I'll let you tell me the situation, then decide whether to save or not. Mu Li's anger rose, and he shouted angrily. He couldn't help but think, if your ancestor is in the hands of that bitch, do I have to save him? Wouldn't that be suicide? Our ancestor is trapped in the abandoned land. When Qing heard Mu Li's words, although she was a little unhappy, she was very cooperative this time and didn't go against it. The abandoned land? What is that place? Mu Li and the others looked at each other. They had been in the divine world for a long time, but they had never heard of that place. The abandoned land is the place where the 3 kings of the beast clan are sealed. Later on, the number of people there gradually increased, and it gradually formed the current scale. Now, the local people call it the City of Abandoned Land. Qing explained. In order to save me, my family's 3 ancestors offended the city lord, so they were captured by the city lord. You have to save them, please. Qing hesitated for a moment before continuing, crying and pleading. At this moment, she deeply realized that her dignity and pride could not compare to the safety of her ancestors. If she could not save the 3 ancestors, she would definitely die of guilt. Chapter 2899 Ordinary Chaos Divine Pill 3. At this moment, she had placed all her hopes on this detestable man in front of her. When Mu Li heard this, he frowned and asked, How strong are your 3 ancestors? They're both reverent god level. Qing replied without the slightest hesitation. Reverend God. Mu Li was at a loss. The 3 hierarch-level beasts were all trapped in the abandoned land. He might not be able to save them even if he went alone. However, he knew very well that if he refused now, this little phoenix would probably break down. Mu Li, who had no idea what to do, turned to look at Ming Ji, hoping that he would give her some advice. Qing little phoenix, we still need to think this through, said Ming Ji with a smile. Then will you help me save her? The uncertain Qing couldn't help but ask. We don't know much about the situation in the deserted land. If we go there rashly, we might be trapped there, let alone save people. And you must have gone through a lot of trouble to escape from there, right? Minga asked with a smile. Yes, I am. Qing sobbed. If it wasn't for the fact that they wanted to save her and help her escape from the desolate lands, the 3 old ancestors wouldn't have to take any risks. But now, she was fine, yet it was unknown if the 3 old ancestors were still alive or dead. Such a truth was simply causing her to collapse. What's the strength of the city lord of the deserted land? How many Reverend God level experts are there? Minga narrowed her eyes and continued to ask. I don't know how many Reverend God level experts there are. I only know that their city master is a Reverend God level expert. After thinking for a while, Qing said honestly. Hearing Qing words, Ming Ji was truly speechless. How could he save people happily like this? He was not clear about the situation in the abandoned land at all. Wasn't this sending sheep into the tiger's mouth? The smart Minga would never do such a stupid thing. Of course, he wouldn't let Mu Li do it, so he directly became an evil person and said, Qing little phoenix, it's not that we don't want to help you. It's just that this matter is a little difficult to handle. Why would it be difficult? The great elder of the white tiger told me that you are very strong, and that you are definitely not inferior to the 3 ancestors of my family. He would not lie to me. I know, you guys didn't plan to help me save her, did you? In a fit of anger, Qing became angry again. If you really want to put it that way, I can't do anything about it. Minga was too lazy to explain to the little girl, and she gave Mu Li a look. Mu Li understood. He picked up Qing's collar and teleported to the foot of the mountain, handing her over to the white tiger great elder. Of course, before he left, he didn't forget to ask the white tiger great elder to counsel this little phoenix, in case it did anything stupid. They returned to the garden. Before they could sit down, Minga said bluntly, if we really want to save her, we can only inform the Lord. You think I don't want to? I have to be able to contact the Lord first. Mu Li said gloomily. Now that his lord was not paying attention to him at all, he was quite worried. Woo! His lord must be despising him. But he didn't do anything wrong. Mu Li felt that he had been wronged. Let's all try. Minga said helplessly. If they really couldn't get in touch, then they could only blame the 3 phoenixes for their bad luck. Minga nodded, and then the others began to try to contact the demon. In reality, the demon had cut off his connection with Mu Li not only because he wanted to punish him, but also because he didn't want him to disturb him. As a result, he didn't receive the news that the laws of heaven and earth were hiding in the immortal realm. Now, Mu Li naturally couldn't contact him. As for Ming Ji and the others, it had always been Mu Li's one-way contact, so it was very difficult for them to contact the demon. Of course, if the demon was in the 9 underworlds, Ming Ji and the others might have a chance to contact him. But the demon was in the chaotic world, where the signal blocking was quite strong. As a result, they had completely lost contact with their master. At this very moment, Len Ruoxue had been refining Chaos Divine pills for at least a few decades, but she had never succeeded. And the number of times she had tried it was basically uncountable. After countless adjustments in the types and ratios of the ingredients, 2 pills were produced. However, after Qing Ju's appraisal, they were not Chaos Divine pills. However, the grade of the pills was not low either. It was just that the effects were unknown. In the end, the pills that were produced by accident were taken advantage of by Uncle Long and the others. Right now, the crowd was already rather calm about Leng Ruoxu's refinement of the Chaos Divine Pill. Therefore, other than Shen Nua, Lu Yue, and Jiang Ning, who were still surrounding Leng Ruoxue to watch her refine pills, the others had long lost interest in this. Even the demon only appeared in the alchemy room from time to time. The rest of the time, he would directly target Uncle Long and the others. To put it nicely, he was giving them special training. Uncle Long and the others were quite worried about this. They were already Reverend God level, could they still surpass Reverend God level in special training? The answer was, of course, no. For ordinary cultivators, Reverend God was the highest level. Unless they had the same opportunity as Shuai, they would just be Reverend God for the rest of their lives. But now, the Dark Lord was giving them special training. What the hell is this? Thanks, in fact, to put it bluntly, the secret mistress' so-called special training was just to fight with them. They knew that Shuai didn't have time to accompany the mistress of the Dark World, and the mistress of the Dark World had no place to vent her energy, so she came to them. But even if they knew this, they didn't want to become live targets, right? Unfortunately, the demon didn't care if they were willing or not. He directly found someone and started fighting without saying a word. As a result, Uncle Long and the others simply closed their doors and did not come out. However, even so, they could not prevent the evildoers from directly looking for them. This continued for a long time. Uncle Long and the others, who were tortured, prayed that Shuai could quickly refine the Chaos Divine Pill and end their doomsday-like lives. One day, it was Uncle Long's turn to be abused. Basically, at this time, Uncle Long would often pretend to be dead and unconscious, but the same method couldn't be used too many times, so this time, Uncle Long decided to think of another way. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly felt the entire courtyard shake. Following that, a light that seemed to be the laws of heaven and earth enveloped the sky above the courtyard. Seeing this, the demon stopped, and Uncle Long was released. Uncle Long, who felt that he was out of danger, didn't even have the time to rejoice before the demon grabbed him by the collar and teleported away. Shuai, did you succeed? He teleported to the pill refinement room and threw Uncle Long to the side. He then stared at Leng Ruoxue nervously and asked. It should be done, right? Leng Ruoxue wasn't too sure either. At this moment, there was a milky white pill that was the size of a baby's fist lying quietly in the pill furnace. The pill looked like an ordinary pill, so Leng Ruoxue could not associate it with the legendary Chaos Divine Pill. However, the light that had descended from the sky earlier on had left her confused. Logically speaking, shouldn't there be a pill tribulation or something of the sort whenever a high-grade pill appeared? However, this pill should be of a higher grade than the reincarnation pill, but there was no pill tribulation. This was something she could not understand. And this pill was different from the previous two, so she really couldn't be sure what kind of pill it was. However, Shen Nua, Lu Yue, and Jiang Ning were certain that it was a Chaos Divine Pill. When she asked them why, their answers made Leng Ruoxue not know whether to laugh or cry. This was because the three of them told her in unison that her intuition told her that it was. Leng Ruoxue felt helpless when she heard his answer. Now, this freshly baked pill had attracted the attention of the demon and the others. With a change of mind, she packed the elixir and directly moved the people present into the bracelet to confirm with Qing Ju. As soon as they entered the bracelet, Qing Ju appeared and hugged Leng Ruoxue's leg. Congratulations, sister, for finally making the Chaos Divine Pill. Is this really? Looking at the pill in her hand, Leng Ruoxue could not believe what she had just heard. She was afraid that she had rejoiced for nothing. And, didn't the laws of heaven and earth descend just now? Qing Ju reminded her with a smirk. Ah. That was the law of heaven and earth. Why is it so different from the past? Uncle Long asked in surprise. The laws of heaven and earth have a guilty conscience, so they don't dare to show themselves for too long. Qing Ju said honestly. So that was how it was. As for Leng Ruoxue, she was holding onto the jade bottle that contained the Chaos Divine Pills in a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. Seeing Shuai like this, no one disturbed her. After a long while, Len Ruoshua cried tears of joy and said, "Woo! It really wasn't easy. I've finally succeeded. Shuai, congratulations." The demon hugged Len Ruoshua and said affectionately. Unfortunately, before Len Ruoshua could respond, Qing Ju poured cold water on her. "It's still too early to say congratulations. Don't forget, there's still an acquired chaos divine artifact." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's mood instantly became low, and they couldn't help but complain in their hearts at the same time. This little child was really too not cute. Couldn't he let them be excited for a while longer? At the thought of the other superior chaos-grade divine weapon, everyone could not help but pity Len Ruoshua. It took him nearly 50 years to make chaotic divine pills. When he finished making a chaotic divine weapon, ugh. I'm afraid 100 years will pass. This was much longer than Shuai's cultivation. However, this wasn't because Shuai's technique wasn't good. It was mainly because the materials in the land of chaos were too difficult to melt. Just the time used to melt these materials alone was more than 2/3 of the time. At the thought of this, Uncle Long and the rest patted Len Ruoxu's shoulder and encouraged her. "Shuai, you can do it." "I will." Len Ruoshua wanted to cry but no tears came out. She had just concocted a chaos divine pill and was not even excited yet. Qing Ju reminded her again that she still had to refine a primal chaos-grade divine artifact. Sob. When would such days end? Len Ruoshua was so depressed that she was about to go crazy. Fortunately, she still had a trace of rationality left. She immediately threw herself into the refinement of the chaotic divine weapon. Before they started refining the weapon, Len Ruoshua suddenly thought of something and turned to ask the demon, "Did anything happen in Demon City?" Chapter 2900, You're Really an Acquaintance, 1, No, I didn't. After hearing Len Ruoxua's words, the demon replied calmly. In reality, he had no idea if Demon City was fine. It had been a long time since he had contacted Mu Li and the rest. However, deep down in his heart, he felt that no matter what happened to Demon City, even if it had been wiped out by fog, it would not be as important as Shuai's pill and equipment refining. Thus, he said these words with a clear conscience. After hearing the demon's words, Len Ruoshua smiled and said, "Then I'll continue to forge. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me. Don't worry, with me around, no one will dare to disturb you." The demon promised. Then, he moved a chair and sat at the door of the weapon refining room like a door god. Listening to the conversation between the two and seeing the demon's actions, Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but curse in their hearts. With this person around, no one would dare to disturb Shuai. However, the one who disturbed him the most was probably the mistress of the dark world. Of course, he couldn't say this out loud. Otherwise, he would be courting death. Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but feel relieved when they saw the monster's reaction. If the mistress of the dark world had stayed here, did that mean that their special training would be cancelled? Thinking of this possibility, Uncle Long and the others were instantly excited, but they didn't dare to show it. After all, there were too many examples of extreme joy turning into sorrow in this world. However, the demon seemed to have sensed what they were thinking. After sitting down, he smiled faintly and said, "You guys get ready. I'll find time to continue our special training." These words made Uncle Long and the others feel that they would never love him again. Sob. Mistress of the dark world, if you're bored, you should find something else to do. Why did he have to torment them? Their old arms and legs really couldn't take it anymore. Uncle Long and the others wanted to cry but had no tears. However, under the power of the demon, they dared not speak out. After Len Ruoshua had enough of the commotion, she ignored the crowd and focused on preparing to start refining. Chaotic level divine weapons were divided into innate and acquired. Innate chaos divine weapons, such as Green Vessel and Azure, were basically born from chaos. As for Hotian chaotic divine weapons, they could be man-made, but only people with chaotic divine bodies could make them. For example, the Dream Dust was an acquired chaos divine weapon. In terms of level, he was slightly lower than Green Vessel and Azure. However, because the dream dust had undergone a mutation during the refining process, it made up for its inherent shortcomings. If they were to really fight, the dream dust might not lose to Azure and Azure. Right now, Len Ruoxue was going to craft an acquired Chaos Divine weapon. This was also the minimum requirement for her weapon crafting level for the heaven-defying art. However, it was easier to make chaotic divine weapons than chaotic divine pills. Of course, the easy she was referring to did not mean that it was easy to craft an acquired chaotic divine weapon. Instead, she meant that her master had his own set of insights on crafting acquired chaotic divine weapons. In addition, the materials used to refine post-celestial chaos divine weapons were much less than that used to refine pills. With that, the difficulty Len Ruoxue would face would naturally be much lower. After preparing the materials needed for the refining, Len Ruoxue was not in a hurry to start refining. Instead, she took out her master's experience in refining weapons and started reading it over and over again. After confirming that there were no more questions, Len Ruoxue started to refine it. Even though Len Ruoxue had already prepared for the fact that the materials in the land of chaos would be extremely tough after the refinement process started, it was only after they started melting that she realized that the situation was much better than what she had expected. The materials here were not only hard. He was simply stubborn. More importantly, one of the materials she used was rather explosive. According to her master, that material was one of the main materials necessary to craft acquired chaotic divine weapons. To put it bluntly, that material had to be used. It also played a role similar to stabilizing and fusing all the materials together. Thanks when Len Ruoxue found out about the use of this material, she really wanted to ridicule it. To let a material that liked to self-destruct act as a binding agent, how much of a masochist would think of this method? However, even though she was complaining, since her master had said that this material had to be used, she could only follow her master's orders. While waiting for the materials to melt, his master's words were verified. Before the other materials showed any signs of softening, the adhesive-type material that loved to explode had already self-destructed with a bang. Fortunately, the people present were mentally prepared and made timely defenses, so the explosion was concentrated in a small area. However, the explosion of the materials still caused the weapon forging room that Len Ruoxue and the others were in to be blown into pieces. At the same time, Uncle Long and the others, who were chatting in the garden, were doing what they were doing calmly after hearing the explosion. Of course, the main purpose of their conversation this time was to find a way to escape the Dark Lord's special training. Unfortunately, after carefully discussing for a long time, no one could come up with a good idea. It exploded again. Ice Spirit walked into the garden and asked. Yes. Uncle Long nodded. Then shouldn't we go and show some concern? Ice Spirit blinked and asked indifferently. Whoever wants to go, go. Uncle Long pouted. If they went, they would be reminding the Dark Lord that they were waiting for the special training. No. No matter what happened, they couldn't show up in front of the mistress of the dark world or they wouldn't even know how they died. At the same time, Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but look at Ice Spirit with envy and jealousy. They were very curious, how did this guy escape the secret mistress special training? Why were they able to live freely while they were on tenterhooks, unable to eat or sleep well? You bastard! His spirit was almost weakened by the mistress of the dark world. You guys are too unsympathetic. Shouldn't you be consoling that little girl at this time? Ice Spirit pretended to be unhappy when she heard Uncle Long. Well, just comfort them in our hearts. There's really no need to appear in front of them. Uncle Long replied calmly. I see. But I still feel that it's better to go there personally. After all, everyone lives in the same courtyard. Ice Spirit did not give up. Senior Ice Soul, if you have the heart, go ahead. But we definitely won't go. Uncle Long said, as if he wouldn't listen to her. If you guys aren't going, I won't go either. It's better for us to advance and retreat together. Ice Spirit said helplessly and sat down on an empty chair. As soon as he sat down, Uncle Long couldn't help but feel sick again. Senior Ice Soul, you wouldn't dare to appear alone. Yes. Bingpa didn't dare to show up alone. Even though he was curious about Shui'er's progress, he didn't dare to go and see for himself. That was why he wanted to bring Uncle Long and the others with him so that they could be his cannon fodder at the critical moment. Unfortunately, they didn't fall for it. As such, he could only give up on visiting Leng Ruoxue. He sat in the garden obediently and stared at Uncle Long and the others. Chapter 2901, You're Really an Acquaintance, 2. For a moment, everyone was speechless. After a long time, Uncle Long couldn't help but ask, Senior Ice Spirit, why didn't the Mistress of the Dark World give you special training? I have to take care of the child. Bingpa said after looking at Uncle Long. Uncle Long and the others were a little confused. How could this excuse work? Looking at Bingpa and Bing Yao in his arms, Uncle Long and the others had to admit that it was great to have a kid as a shield. However, Bing Yao wasn't a newborn baby. Did the Mistress of the Dark World need to take care of her so much? He should be treated equally, right? In an instant, Uncle Long and the others felt unbalanced again. So what if you have a baby? They will have it too. Everyone glared at Ice Soul, but Ice Soul didn't seem to feel that she had attracted any hatred. She just hugged her Ice Phoenix and smiled foolishly. Seeing his silly look, Uncle Long and the others suddenly felt better. As a father, Ice Soul's intelligence had indeed dropped a lot. The ice spirit in front of him had the halo of a silly father in addition to the 24 filial piety father. They were also suspicious of Ice Spirit's words. No matter how they looked at it, they felt that Ice Spirit had become stupid, which was why the Mistress of the Dark World let him go. They had to admit that they knew the truth. The reason why the demon didn't cause trouble for Ice Spirit was that when the demon found him, he was holding his child and smiling at the demon. When the demon saw his silly look, he immediately lost the mood to fight with him. In this way, he successfully escaped. Since then, Ice Spirit liked to smile like a fool. At this moment, Uncle Long and the others also decided not to compete with him. He would think of another way. After all, they couldn't compare who was stupider. AI. He couldn't afford to hurt a beast with a lowered intelligence. After thinking for a long time, Dongfang Lin carefully said, Why don't we return to Demon City? Who's going to send us back? Uncle Long asked, blinking his eyes. The Mistress of the Dark World didn't dare to cause trouble, but could she find Song? After all, it was Tsang who had brought them here. However, in recent years, Sang Du and Qing Ju had been together. They rarely came out, so they couldn't find them even if they wanted to. Although they agreed with Dongfang Lin's suggestion that the Mistress of the Dark World would not be able to find trouble with them once they returned to Demon City, the question of how to get back was a huge problem. Senior Tsang was depressed, and it was hard to say whether he would pay them any attention. Let's find Song. Dongfang Lin revealed his plan. Alright, you can go and find it. Uncle Long and the others glanced at Dongfang Lin and gave him the task. Fine, I'll go. Dongfang Lin's anger was ignited after being provoked. He could not help but glare at the crowd in disdain as he thought to himself, what a bunch of cowards. Lord Song. After saying that, Dongfang Lin began to call out Azure's name from the garden. Unfortunately, after summoning for a long time, Sang Du didn't appear. Immediately, Dongfang Lin's heart turned cold. Woo! Master Tsang really didn't give him face. In the bracelet. Thanks. Qing Ju kicked Tsang's butt, who was sleeping soundly, and shouted, Silly cat, someone is looking for you outside. I'm not free, don't disturb my sleep, you little brat. Half Azure squinted his eyes as he growled in anger. You're really not going out? Qing Ju asked with uncertainty. I'm not going out. I want to sleep. Once I wake up, Nyo will be able to craft a Hotian Chaos Divine artifact. Tsang said with drowsy eyes. As he spoke, he yawned. Since you're not going out, you'll have to move them in. Green Vessel laughed evilly and said. You dare. Don't let them disturb me. Sang Hua, who had his eyes half closed, roared. That's not up to you. Don't forget, this is my territory. Qing-ju warned. Are you threatening me? Tsang squinted his eyes before asking calmly. I'm just telling the truth. In any case, Big Sister is refining and I'm quite bored. You've been sleeping non-stop, so it's also a little fun to bring them in. Qing-ju said with a smile. If you're not afraid of that damn evildoer coming after you, you can move the people in. I don't mind. Hearing Qing-ju's words, Tsang became calmer and even looked at Qing-ju with sympathy. As an artifact spirit, it was all too clear about Green Vessel's intentions. Therefore, it did not hesitate to use its trump card, the demonic man. When Qing-ju heard this, other than being stunned for a moment, he quickly calmed down and moved Uncle Long and the others into the bracelet without being threatened. Uncle Long and the others, who were sighing in the garden, saw that the scenery in front of them had changed in the blink of an eye. They immediately realized where they were and looked around with wild joy. Afraid that they would not be able to find him, Qing-ju took the initiative to show them the way. Azure is in the purple bamboo house, quickly go find it. After doing these small actions, Qing-ju smiled proudly and took small steps to do his own things. At the same time, Uncle Long and the others had also caught up with Azure. Senior Azure, take us back to Demon City. Uncle Long said directly. You won't go back, I want to wait for Nyo. Azure didn't even lift his eyelids as he lazily said. Then can you send us back first? Dongfang Lin asked anxiously. He was also the one who had been tortured the most by the mistress of the dark world, so he wanted to hide as far away as possible. Hearing this, Tsang was finally willing to open his eyes a little. As if he didn't know Dongfang Lin, he indifferently said, do you think that you won't waste your divine power by making a round trip? I'll tell you, the last time I came here, I lost a lot of divine power and have not recovered yet. Well, talk about it after I recover. Ah. Hearing this, Dongfang Lin was stunned. Since Tsang Du had said so, he really had no choice. Even though he wanted to ask how long it would take for Tsang to recover his lost divine power and bring them home, seeing Tsang's impatient appearance, he tactfully swallowed his question. You guys want to go home just to avoid that damn demon? Azure laughed. Actually, there's no need for that at all. Why is it not necessary? Dongfang Lin asked in a daze. There's no need to avoid him, just stay here obediently. Of course, the premise is that the bad guy, Qing-ju, doesn't bring that damn demon in. Otherwise, you guys won't be able to escape either. So, go and beg him. Only that scoundrel can help you. Tsang gave an idea and sent these pitiful people to Green Vessel. When everyone heard this, it seemed to make sense. Therefore, Uncle Long and the rest ran to find Green Vessel without any hesitation. As a result, Qing-ju was almost driven mad by Uncle Long and the others. Then, in a fit of anger, he moved Uncle Long and the others out. After returning to the garden, Uncle Long and the others were completely depressed. Coincidentally, at this time, the demon who was in a bad mood blocked them again. Looking at Uncle Long and the others who were obviously not looking too good, the demon revealed a beautiful smile and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you sick?" Chapter 2902, You're Really an Acquaintance, 3, It's not very comfortable. Uncle Long said weakly. Then, he followed the others and moved towards an area. If the situation didn't look right, he had to run away. Otherwise, whoever was blocked by the mistress of the dark world would be in trouble. I have medicine here, you'll be fine after taking it. Hearing Uncle Long's words, the demon took out a bottle of pills and waved it in front of everyone. Looking at the familiar jade bottle, Uncle Long and the others were a little confused. Wasn't this the pill that Shuer produced during the process of refining the Chaos Divine Pill? What did the Dark Mistress mean by this? He wanted to use them to test medicine. Thinking of this possibility, everyone shivered. The mistress of the dark world was indeed in a bad mood today. In fact, it wasn't that the demon was in a bad mood. It was just that his divine sense had accidentally scanned Uncle Long and the others and found that they were playing tricks, so he came over to teach them a little lesson. But seeing that Uncle Long and the others were really afraid, he didn't have the mood to continue teasing them. After a long time, Uncle Long said carefully, "It's not serious enough to require medicine. We're just homesick." "What's wrong? Are you homesick? Do you need me to send you back?" Seeing that Uncle Long and the others were silent, the demon continued to ask. "Is this true?" Uncle Long and the others could not believe that such a good thing would happen. Hence, they did not say anything and looked at the evildoer with anticipation. "If you really want to go back, I can send you back." The demon saw that his credibility was being questioned and repeated. Seeing that the demon was serious, Uncle Long nodded. "I want to go home. What about you guys?" After seeing Uncle Long nod in satisfaction, the demon asked the others. "Let's go back too." The rest of the people said in unison. "Then go back," the demon said in a good mood. Then, he raised his hand, and the chaos world opened up like a giant beast with its mouth open, revealing a thin and long hole. Before Uncle Long and the others could react, they were all picked up by the demon and thrown into the huge beast's mouth. After cleaning up Uncle Long and the others, the demon returned to the spare weapon refining room in a good mood. Now, other than the few professionals who were assisting Shuai, there were quite a few less third wheels. Seeing the demon return, Len Ruoxue, who had finished her preparations for weapon refinement, asked in surprise, "Evildoer, where have you been?" "I'll send Uncle Long and the others off. They were homesick, so I sent them back," the demon calmly explained and then sat down again. "Oh. They've been out for long enough this time, so it's good to send them back first." Len Ruoxue didn't suspect him. She then turned her attention back to the weapon furnace. However, the few professionals who were present had heard the conversation between the two of them and received a faint look of disdain from the demon. They automatically lowered their presence to avoid angering this big shot who was in a bad mood. The demon was quite satisfied with their tactfulness. At the same time, Uncle Long and the others didn't feel good. From the moment they were thrown into the spatial tunnel, they had been feeling dizzy. No matter how much strength they used, they could not control the flow of their bodies. It was as if their bodies were being controlled by someone, and they were constantly being shot out like cannonballs. When they finally managed to catch their breath, they began to fall down again. Fiend's City in the Divine Realm. As usual, Mu Li and the others were sitting in the garden and doing nothing. At this moment, the sky suddenly changed color and turned pitch black. Seeing this scene, Minga seemed to have some feelings and said, "This scene is so familiar." "Which part is familiar?" Mu Li blinked and asked curiously. It was probably going to rain. Sure enough, as soon as he thought of this, the sky began to rain. No, it was the servants. At the same time, it was accompanied by a pressure that they were quite familiar with. Needless to say, this was definitely his lord's doing. After sensing the pressure, Ming Ji immediately understood. As for those who fell directly into the pool, he was speechless and did not know what to say. Was this his lord's bad taste? Of all places, these people had to fall into the pool that the city lord of Muley City had once fallen into. This time, the city lord of Muley City had a brother in trouble. Ming Ji, who was watching, was very happy to fill in the blanks. Uncle Long and the others who fell into the water were extremely depressed. They climbed up to the shore in a sorry state. After drying their clothes, they pretended to be calm and looked at Mu Li and the others. "We're back," Uncle Long said awkwardly. It was really embarrassing to return home like this. "Thanks, Wu." Without a doubt, the mistress of the dark world did it on purpose. "Only you guys came back?" Ming Ji tactfully asked with a smile as she searched for Len Ruoxue's figure. Len Ruoxue didn't return. Or behind? Yup. He looked at the lineup behind him. Even the reverent god had returned, and there were also the Qilins from the Qilin clan. As the Venomous Snake clan and the Golden Bee clan had been staying in Green Vessel's territory, they were spared. They were the only disgraceful ones. The future Netherworld Empress didn't come back. Mu Li couldn't help but ask when he heard Uncle Long's words. No, Shuer is still refining. She won't be back in a short time. Uncle Long said honestly. I see. Mu Li didn't know what to say. It seemed that the matter of the little phoenix had to continue waiting. What's the matter? Are you looking for Shuer? Upon hearing Mu Li's tone, Uncle Long realized that something big had happened in Demon City. A little, but it's not a big deal. Mu Li saw that Uncle Long had suddenly become nervous and quickly said. Then, he explained what had happened to Uncle Long and the others. After hearing this, Uncle Long and the others all frowned. They still had some impression of the little phoenix called Qing. Wasn't she the one who had come to Demon City to challenge Shuer? However, he did not know who the old ancestor she was talking about was. With a trace of doubt, Uncle Long and the others decided to meet the little phoenix in person. Seeing this, Mu Li transmitted a message to the White Tiger First Elder, asking him to bring Qing up. During this period, under the White Tiger Great Elder's advice, Qing had calmed down a lot. Perhaps it was because she had completely seen through the situation in front of her, so she was no longer so angry. But at the same time, she had also become silent, sometimes not saying a word for several days. When the White Tiger Great Elder reported this matter to them, Mu Li and the others were well aware that the little phoenix's situation could not be considered to be silent. It was just a self-exile after being powerless. He brought Qing to the Leng family's main residence. The White Tiger Great Elder saw Uncle Long with a single glance, and immediately said in surprise, "Master is back." Hearing the words of the White Tiger Great Elder, Qing also raised her head, her beautiful phoenix eyes shining with a glimmer of light. Shuer didn't come back, only the few of us came back. Uncle Long's mouth twitched when he heard the old White Tiger call Shuer master. This old man is really sticking to Shuer. Humph. It really knew how to hug someone's thigh. When can she come back? Qing asked anxiously. I don't know. Maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years. Uncle Long replied kindly. Why do you need so long? What the hell is she doing? Hearing that there was no hope, Qing broke down again and couldn't help but shout. Uncle Long heard the questioning and said unhappily, to cultivate, of course. Do you need that long to cultivate? Where did he go to cultivate? Qing couldn't help asking. When you phoenix kind start cultivating, it will take at least 1,000 years, if not 10,000 years. Why is 100 years considered long? Also, where Shuer goes to cultivate is a secret. I can't tell you. Uncle Long said coldly. I didn't mean it that way. It's just that I have an urgent matter that I need to look for Leng Ruoxue. Qing could hear Uncle Long's dissatisfaction with her, so she quickly changed her tone and said gently. Now, she was the one who could be saved. As the White Tiger First Elder had said, it was necessary for her to lower her stance. You'll have to wait if you want to find Shuer. Uncle Long said calmly. We can't wait, we really can't wait. Human lives are at stake. Qing sobbed. Don't worry, it's only 100 years. Isn't your ancestor a reverent god? You won't die. Uncle Long narrowed his eyes and remained calm. He truly felt that nothing was more important than Shuer's cultivation at the moment. Furthermore, even if the mistress of the dark world knew about this, she would most likely not tell Shuer. As for them, they had lost contact with the land of chaos ever since they returned to Demon City. Therefore, this little phoenix was destined to be disappointed. When Qing heard Uncle Long's words, she immediately burst into tears. As she cried and cried, she knelt in front of Uncle Long and the others and begged, I beg you, please save my family's old ancestor. We really can't wait 100 years. The city lord of the abandoned land will torture the 3 ancestors. Qing felt that without Leng Ruoxue, if these people were willing to help her, she would definitely be able to save her old ancestor. The reason why she didn't kneel and beg Mu Li and the others was because she didn't know their strength. However, Uncle Long and the others were different. These people were legendary existences in the divine world. Qing'er had heard of their names long ago, so she was naturally convinced of their strength. Now, she could only ask them for help. Hearing Qing'er cry so sadly, Uncle Long felt a little embarrassed. Just as the city lord of Muley City had said, they were not clear about the strength of the City of Desolation. If they attacked rashly, everything would be unpredictable. What if they got themselves into trouble? To them, the most important enemy was that bitch, Wu Chen. The City of Desolation was Wu Chen's territory, so Uncle Long and the others really didn't dare to take the risk. Most importantly, if this was a trap, they would only be courting death if they went in the absence of Shuai and Sung. Uncle Long didn't dare to act rashly. Seeing that Qing'er was crying again, he gradually became irritated and shouted helplessly, "Little Phoenix, can you solve the problem by crying? By the way, what are the names of your 3 ancestors?" "My ancestor is the 6th elder of the Phoenix clan. The other 2 are called Feng Miao and Feng Hua." Qing'er wiped her tears and obediently replied. They were really acquaintances. Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but think to themselves. Chapter 2903, The City of Abandoned Ruins Tradition, 1. However, he was not willing to give this little phoenix too much hope. He said, "Little Phoenix, we need to discuss the matter you mentioned. You can go back first." Seeing that she had been chased out just like that, Qing'er's disappointment could not help but be displayed on her face. Soon after, she was unwillingly pulled away by the White Tiger Great Elder. Before she left, Qing'er kept looking at Uncle Long and the others with a resentful look. Glancing at Qing'er's back, Mu Li said unhappily, "This little phoenix treats you and us 2 completely different ways." Puchi. Hearing Mu Li's complaints, Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but laugh. They had heard the specific situation from Mu Li, but they couldn't help it. "What are you going to do about this?" Ice Spirit asked. "What do you think, Senior Ice Soul?" Uncle Long asked instead of answering. "I know the City of Abandoned Ruins, but it's not a good place. With our current strength, we can go there and retreat safely, but it will be difficult to save people." Ice Spirit's words were very subtle. What he didn't say was that he heard that there was a fog clone guarding the place. The fog ice clone had about 1/3 of the strength of the fog ice, which was almost equivalent to an ordinary Reverend God level. It didn't seem to be very powerful, but it was very difficult to deal with. Unless Shuai was there, it would be a waste of time for them to go there. On the contrary, they might even alarm the fog ice. "Then what should we do?" Dongfang Yu said worriedly. "Why? Are those 3 old phoenixes very close to Shuai?" Ice Soul asked curiously after seeing Dongfang Yu's expression. As one of the 4 Supreme Divinity Kings, Ice Spirit would definitely help if there was a chance. However, it would be very difficult to save them with just the few of them. They might even get themselves into trouble. As such, he was not willing to help. After all, he still had his son and his tribesmen. He really did not have the extra energy to care about the affairs of the other beast clans. However, judging from Dongfang Yu's expression, it was obvious that there was a secret he didn't know about. As such, he had to be careful. "Feng Miao and Feng Hua are Shuai's beastie," Dongfang Yu said honestly. As soon as he said that, Bing Pe, Mu Li, and the others who didn't know the truth couldn't help but widen their eyes. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Shuai is so powerful. When did he manage to recruit the Phoenix clan's old ancestor? As such, they had no choice but to take it seriously. It looks like we can't just ignore this. After a long time, Mu Li said. Then, let's send a few people to explore the deserted land first. We can't be in a rush to save people. Ice Soul said after thinking for a while. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads. However, they all had a tacit understanding not to tell Qing Heir's little phoenix about this matter, in case the other party's expectations were too high. In the end, the result of the discussion was that Ice Soul, Uncle Dragon, Dongfang Yu, and Ming Ji would disguise themselves and head to the City of Forsaken Desolation, while the rest of the people would stay in Demon City. After the four supreme gods set off, they began to take turns to teleport. However, the City of Desolation was quite far from the City of Demons. Even with teleportation, they still had not reached their destination after 3 months. Moreover, the further they went, the more desolate it became. There's a city of abandoned ruins here. Minga looked around. The ground was covered in yellow sand, and there was no green or human figure to be seen. It was even more desolate than the 9 Nether prison. The only thing that was better than the 9 Nether prison was that the sky was blue. We have to cross this desert. Ice Spirit told the truth and then said, be careful, there are many powerful beasts in this desert. Thanks. The beastie he was referring to was, of course, the Earth Dragon, the Scorpion, the Spider, and so on. However, as an outsider, Minga was not aware of this. He was even eager to catch one and ask Lin Ruoxue to help him tame it. Hearing his thoughts, the other three couldn't help but have strange expressions. Uncle Long even patted his shoulder and said, good idea. I support you. Ah. Thank you for your support. Minga replied in a daze. Looking at the expressions of the three, he clearly felt that something was wrong. How could this be? But at this time, no one could answer his question. After Ice Spirit released her aura, she said to the three of them, let's go. Teleport over there. After saying that, he used his divine power to cover the three of them and prepared to fly them over the desert. After floating in the air, Minga searched around with her eyes in boredom. Suddenly, he felt that a piece of desert not far away seemed to be moving. He told Ice Spirit and the other two about this, but they didn't even bat an eye. At that moment, a huge, sticky, and disgusting thing suddenly popped out of the moving desert. It looked like a snake, but it was not. He didn't know if it was the head or the tail, and he was so scared that his face turned pale. You bastard! What was this? He's so ugly. He turned to look at Ice Spirit and the other two, but they were very calm. Uncle Long was ready to attack. What's this? Ming Ji asked carefully as she trembled and resisted the nauseating feeling. The beast you want to contract is called Earth Dragon. Dongfang Yu replied calmly. Ah. Minga felt her stomach turn sour. If all the beasts here were like this, he would rather not have them. Your sister. What kind of beastie was this? It was even more disgusting than the 9 Nether prison. At this moment, Minga deeply felt that even the evil spirits of the 9 Nether prison were 100 times stronger than this disgusting beast. This thing really affected the appetite of others. In the blink of an eye, while Minga was still feeling nauseated, Uncle Dragon and Dongfang Yu had joined forces and quickly eliminated the Earth Dragon. After the Earth Dragon was smashed into pieces, it sprayed out a dark yellow liquid, making Minga unable to help but vomit. When he was done vomiting, his little face was even paler. Uncle Long patted him on the shoulder and said helplessly, Minga, you're still lacking in training. And, if we encounter another Earth Dragon later, he'll let you take action. Ice Soul nodded, but he was laughing inside. Back then, he had deliberately not explained in detail the beasts that would be found in the desert. Now, he had indeed seen such an interesting scene. Woo! Spare me please. Upon hearing this, Minga burst into tears. He had seen a lot of disgusting things in the 9 Nether prison, but he felt that they were nothing compared to the Earth Dragon that Ice Soul was talking about. In fact, the reason why the visual impact just now was so great was mainly because he was not mentally prepared. If Ice Soul and the other two had told him about this in advance, he might not have ended up like this. But now, the powerful Minga was undeniably frightened by the Earth Dragon. Furthermore, this disgusting Earth Dragon might become a nightmare that would accompany him for a long time. Ha ha ha. Looking at Ming Ji's timid appearance, Uncle Long and the other two laughed out loud without any sympathy, which only made Ming Ji's eyes look even more resentful. Chapter 2904, The City of Abandoned Ruins Tradition, 2. However, his pitiful appearance was completely ignored by the other three. Then, Ice Spirit continued on her way. Logically speaking, with his pressure, most of the beasts in the desert would not dare to come out and loiter around. However, there would always be those who were blind, such as the Earth Dragon. Of course, the Earth Dragons did not do this on purpose. They could ignore the Ice Spirit's pressure because no matter how strong they were, they could not develop intelligence. They were cold-blooded animals, so the pressure from the Ice Spirit's bloodline had little effect on them. Moreover, the Earth Dragons in this desert were not very strong, so it was not difficult for Uncle Dragon and Dongfang Yu to eliminate them. However, the Earth Dragons that appeared from time to time had pushed Ming's mental endurance to the limit. By the time they crossed the desert, there was not a trace of blood on Ming's face. As soon as he landed on the ground, he ran to a giant tree, hugged it, and vomited again. Seeing him like this, Uncle Long was really sympathetic. Originally, they had wanted to give Ming Ge a few Earth Dragons to let him have a good time. But later, when they saw that he vomited until his limbs were weak, they could not bear to bully him anymore. But now, all they could do was sympathize with Ming Ge. When Minga was done vomiting and sat down on the root, Uncle Long took the initiative to sit beside him. He patted his shoulder and asked helplessly, "Minga, you're from the 9 Nether prison. What haven't you seen? You're so scared of just a few Earth Dragons. I'm so disappointed. That thing is too disgusting," Minga said, trembling. "You evil ghosts of the 9 Nether prison are even more disgusting. I wasn't like you at that time," Uncle Long reminded. "Woo. I'm used to evil spirits. I don't find them disgusting," Ming Ge said honestly. More importantly, those evil spirits did not dare to get close to him. However, the Earth Dragons in the desert were different. These Earth Dragons were not afraid of him at all. Some of them even moved closer to him. How could he not be afraid? "All right. The species of the two worlds are different, you just have to get used to it," Uncle Long consoled her. Then, he turned to Ice Soul and Dongfang Yu. "Let's rest here for the night." The two of them nodded. Looking at Ming Ge's weak appearance, it was indeed impossible for them to continue their journey. Then, Uncle Long took out a house and placed it on the empty space in front of him. Seeing the house that had suddenly appeared, the pale-faced Minga could not help but widen her eyes. What is this? Uncle Long, where did you get this?" Minga asked curiously. "I took it out." Uncle Long played dumb. "Ah. I know you're the one who took it out. I mean, where did you get this house?" Minga explained. He could tell that Uncle Long was playing dumb. More importantly, they had set off for 3 months, but he had only just seen the house today. It was obvious that Uncle Long had deliberately hidden it from him. Thinking of this, Ming Ge was sad. "Shuai gave it to me." Uncle Long glanced at Ming Ge's little face and stopped teasing him. "The Nether Empress is too biased." Minga was clearly jealous. "Thanks, I have no choice. Who asked me to have a special relationship with Shuai?" Uncle Long laughed arrogantly, his face full of pride. Hearing this, Minga felt depressed. However, he couldn't deny Uncle Long's words. He also thought that when he met the future Netherworld Empress, he would have to properly curry her favor. Even if he couldn't get a portable house, he could at least get some defensive equipment. With the stimulation from Uncle Long's house, the weak Minga instantly pulled herself together. Uncle Long saw that he was full of energy again and started to prepare food. But when it came to eating, Ming Ge had no appetite at all. Ice Spirit and the other two ate happily, while Minga could only watch from afar. It was a terrible feeling. Fortunately, 2 days later, Ming Ge finally recovered. They were not far from the City of Abandoned Ruins. The City of the Abandoned Ruins is less than 1,000 meters ahead. Ice Soul pointed at the city wall not far away and said. Yes, let's go in quickly. Ming Ji said impatiently. He had heard that the City of Desolation was similar to the Dead Sea in the Nine Nether prison, so he was very interested in this place. However, in reality, the City of Desolation was not only a place to exile criminals from the divine world. At the same time, many people who could not survive would also come here. In the City of the Abandoned Ruins, survival was the most important problem. Furthermore, there weren't any laws of the god world here, and everything was basically decided with one's fists. There was still a certain difference between the saying that whoever had the biggest fist would be the one to make the call and that the strong were respected in the immortal realm. In the immortal realm, true experts would not kill innocents indiscriminately and be respected by others. However, in this place, only those with bigger fists had the right to speak. Moreover, killing people was not a crime. In the City of Desolation, many innocent people were killed, and the reason for their deaths was even more strange. It was possible that they had just glanced at someone and died an unnatural death because the other party was unhappy. Thus, this place could be said to be the most chaotic place in the divine realm. Since it was the most chaotic place, even the people with low strength here would not be good people in the divine world. Thus, this place became the only city that was not bound by the rules of the divine world. Of course, this place also belonged to Wu Cheng. However, there weren't many deities who knew that this place belonged to Rime Ice. On the surface, this place was also managed by the city lord. After paying a rather expensive entrance fee and getting their identity cards, the four of them strode into the City of Abandoned Ruins. Although Ice Spirit knew something about the City of Abandoned Relics, he had never been here before. It was the first time for the other three to be here. The four of them entered the city and walked around the streets curiously like Granny Lu. This place had already formed the scale of a city. Even the streets and shops on the streets were no different from ordinary cities in the divine realm. However, the shops here all belonged to the city lord's mansion. The prices of the things sold in them were so expensive that it left one speechless. Originally, the four of them had planned to find an inn to stay in, but after asking for the price, they were scared away. In the end, they found an open space on the outskirts of the city and planned to temporarily settle down there. The outskirts of the city were thousands of miles away from the main city and were rather desolate. However, to a supreme god, this distance was nothing. Moreover, there were also people like them who thought that the things in the main city were expensive. Of course, those who chose to live in the outskirts were basically people with low strength and no backing. Thus, the four of them immediately attracted the attention of others when they appeared. However, the people who were paying attention to them were also observing. Because in the eyes of others, these four people didn't seem to be easy to deal with. In the face of such gazes, the four people were quite calm. At the same time, in order to avoid attracting more attention, Uncle Long kept a low profile and didn't take out his house. Instead, he took out the half-finished house that Shuer had given him. Chapter 2905, The City of Abandoned Ruins Tradition, 3. These houses were exactly the same as the ones they had built in the Land of Chaos. The defense was needless to say, but they looked quite ordinary and would not attract any attention. However, when Ming Ji, their little friend, saw Uncle Long take out another pile of wood from his storage ring, she couldn't help but widen her eyes. He was really curious about what kind of random things Uncle Long had in his ring. Aside from the dazed Ming Ji, Ice Soul and Dongfang Yu automatically started working after Uncle Long took out a pile of wood. They had built countless houses like this, so they were already quite familiar with it. In less than 5 minutes, a wooden 3-story building stood in the open space. Alright, let's go in and rest. Uncle Long looked at the small building in front of him with satisfaction and smiled. Ah! Good! Like a wooden puppet, Ming Ji was about to enter the building with Uncle Long and the others, but before he could take a step, he heard hurried footsteps behind him. Instantly, Uncle Long and the other three looked at each other and turned around in unison. At this moment, a group of people appeared in front of Uncle Long and the others. The leader of the group was a burly man with a fierce-looking face. He glanced at the small building and then arrogantly glanced at Uncle Long and the others before saying, "You guys built this house?" "Yes, what's wrong?" Uncle Long asked calmly. "What's wrong? Who allowed you to build a house here? Don't you know that the land here has an owner?" The burly man asked at the top of his voice. "I really don't know." Uncle Long blinked and thought to himself, they're here to cause trouble so quickly. However, they were not afraid of trouble, especially in such a chaotic place. "Now you know. Hurry up and move it away." The burly man roared. "What if we don't want to move?" Uncle Long asked again. It was not easy to find this place, but there was no way they could leave. "If you don't want to move, then use money to buy this place," a certain burly man said truthfully. "What if we don't want to buy it?" Uncle Long continued to ask with a smile. "Then get lost." The burly man was extremely angry. He could see that this guy in front of him was definitely doing it on purpose. It was really infuriating. Hearing this, Uncle Long was silent for a moment before saying, "Then get lost." As soon as he finished speaking, Uncle Long raised his leg and kicked the burly man's waist. Then, the burly man's subordinates saw their boss fly away like a kite. "Boss!" The burly man's subordinates cried out in fear as they looked at Uncle Long in horror. Their little hearts suddenly trembled. They had kicked an iron plate, right? "Are you guys going to walk on your own, or do you want to fly like your boss?" Uncle Long very mindlessly gave the minions two choices. When they heard this, they immediately ran away from this terrifying place and the terrifying people. "These small fries are much more tactful than their boss," Uncle Long said with satisfaction as he watched the lackeys leave. "You guys are in big trouble." At this time, an old voice sounded in the ears of the four people. The four of them turned their heads at the same time and saw that the person who spoke was an old man. However, this man's posture was tall and straight, which did not match his old appearance at all. Uncle Long and the others were only surprised for a moment before they regained their calm. Of course, the man noticed their reactions, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at Uncle Long and the others indifferently. "Why do you say that?" Uncle Long asked, pretending to be curious. "Those people have a close relationship with the city lord's mansion. They are also the city lord's minions. Moreover, they mainly wanted to collect some protection fees, so it would be fine if he gave them the money. But now, I'm afraid there will be endless trouble." The man sighed and explained. "So you're here to collect protection fees? I thought they were here to cause trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't have moved his feet first," Uncle Long said with a faint smile. It was obvious from his words that he didn't care about this. "Are you new here?" The man smiled and asked. "How did you know?" Uncle Long was a little surprised. He could tell that. In the city of Forsaken Desolation, any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. Therefore, the people who choose to live here will usually use money to dismiss the vampires. Only newcomers will be as impulsive as you," the man explained. "Thanks, Uncle Long didn't know how to refute that. He couldn't say that they were here to get information and cause trouble, right? Therefore, he could only silently agree with the other party's evaluation of his impulsiveness. "We are indeed new here. Is there anything else we need to pay attention to?" Ice Spirit asked humbly. "Don't provoke the local tyrants, especially those bastards in the city lord's mansion." The man only said this and turned to leave. Looking at the man's back, Minga couldn't help but mutter to herself, "This person is so strange." "What's so strange about it? There are no good people who can live in the desolate land," Ice Spirit said and went back into the building. After temporarily settling down in the city of abandoned ruins, Uncle Long and the other three split into two groups to scout out the situation. Uncle Long and Ice Spirit formed a team and were in charge of the southeast and southeast of the city of abandoned ruins. Dongfang Yu and Ming Ji were in charge of the west, north, and the outskirts of the city. In comparison, Dongfang Yu and Ming Ji's tasks were easier. Uncle Long and Ice Spirit were in charge of the most prosperous city center in the city of abandoned ruins, where the city lord's mansion was located. Of course, there would also be a lot of trouble here. On the first day, the two of them had encountered many challengers, but none of them could do anything to Uncle Long's powerful strength. However, in the next few days, the provocatively challenged became stronger and stronger, and Uncle Long's fighting spirit was also incited. It had been a long time since he had fought so intensely. Most importantly, he did not have to think too much when he fought with those trash. He could fight however he wanted. At the same time, Uncle Long had also made a name for himself and attracted the attention of some forces in the city of abandoned ruins. After a few days of observation, some factions sent people to test Uncle Long and Ice Soul. However, Uncle Long was always the only one to do so, while Ice Soul only watched from the side. As a result, they had a good grasp of Uncle Long's strength, but Ice Soul was becoming more and more mysterious to them. However, Uncle Long alone was enough for them to extend an olive branch. In the following days, the residence of Uncle Long and the other three people became lively. However, this liveliness was obviously not what they wanted, and it made the four of them depressed. They had come here to scout for information, but now, they had not obtained any useful information. Instead, they had become the target of recruitment for various snobby forces. This fact made them quite speechless. In particular, the force of the burly man who had come to make trouble at the beginning had also sent people and sent many gifts to apologize for the man's recklessness. Of course, Uncle Long and the others were also very magnanimous and forgave the unlucky burly man. They became fair-weather friends who talked about everything. After getting along with him, Uncle Long deeply felt that this person's IQ was really low. This was because whenever they wanted to ask something, this person would tell them everything he knew and would not hold back. Especially when Uncle Long pretended to be curious and asked about the city lord, the burly man almost told him the color of the city lord's underwear. What a good friend. Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but sigh when they saw such an honest burly man. At the same time, the man who lived not far away from Uncle Long and the others saw that their residence was bustling every day and realized that he had worried for them for nothing. After living in the abandoned land for nearly a month and finding nothing, Uncle Long and the others decided to go back. Without Schwer, they did not have a pillar of support, so they did not dare to investigate the whereabouts of the three old phoenixes openly. More importantly, they had tried to find out by beating around the bush, but no one knew where the three phoenixes were. They did not even know that the phoenixes had come to the city of forsaken desolation. From this, it could be seen that this city lord had suppressed the news very tightly, and not a single piece of news was leaked out. However, there were still some things that needed to be settled before he returned. Of course, the so-called matter was mainly the recruitment of various forces. Back then, when these forces came to find them, they had said that they would consider it. But now that they were leaving, in order to leave safely, they had to let them know. After inviting all the forces and rejecting their recruitment in person, those forces were obviously not very happy. One had to know that during this period of time, they had given these four people a lot of convenient conditions, but they had not been able to feed these four ungrateful wolves well. Who would be happy about this? The snobs felt that the other party was clearly looking down on them. Uncle Long knew that they would feel uncomfortable, so he explained, "The reason why we rejected your recruitment is that we plan to leave the city of abandoned ruins." Upon hearing this, all the forces were silent for a quarter of an hour. After that, a representative looked at Uncle Long with a strange expression and said, "It's easy to enter the city of abandoned ruins, but it's hard to get out. If you want to leave, you won't be able to leave this place for at least 10 million years." Upon hearing this, Uncle Long and the other three were stunned. What the hell is the meaning of this? Even if he didn't want them to leave, he didn't have to scare them like this. And 10 million years. If he stayed here for tens of millions of years, he was afraid that it would be too late. Seeing that Uncle Long and the others were obviously frightened, the person who spoke continued to explain, "I'm not trying to scare you, but this is a tradition of the city of abandoned ruins. No problem. But if you want to get out, other than paying the expensive exit fee, you have to fight your way out. What do you mean by, beat them out? Uncle Long asked shamelessly. Fight your way out of the arena. That person laughed. I don't recommend you fight in the arena. Your strength is not bad. If you stay and join any of us, you will be treated well. Why do you have to work so hard to fight in the arena? It's not worth it if I die of exhaustion in the arena. The man added. Chapter 2906, Are you guys abandoning your little brother? 1. That's right, those who choose to fight are all people who want money more than their lives. I see that you are all smart people, so you shouldn't do such a stupid thing. It's better to join us and stay here in peace. Leave, don't even think about it. Since you've come to the City of Desolation, you can only live as a citizen of the City of Desolation and die as a ghost of the City of Desolation. Another person said. Uncle Long and the other three were silent, and they couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Who wanted to be a citizen of the City of Abandoned Ruins? No one was willing to be a ghost of the City of Abandoned Ruins. Seeing that the four of them were silent, someone continued, You're all pretty strong, so you should choose to join one of us. I can guarantee that none of the powers will mistreat you. Hearing this, Uncle Long and the other three were very surprised. Before this, these forces had been quarreling over their ownership. Why did they show signs of allying together now that they heard that they were leaving? This was really too unscientific. It had to be said that Uncle Long and the others were right. In fact, these forces were all closely related to the City Lord's mansion. It was reasonable to say that they could join any one of them. However, in order to gain more authority in front of the City Lord, it was naturally better to have more and more experts in their own forces. Only then would they be more valued by the City Lord. But now that they were leaving, they were naturally unwilling. The chance to leave through the arena was also real, and it was even crueler than what they had said. The reason why they didn't go into details was that they were afraid that the other party wouldn't believe them. More importantly, after they said that, the four of them would definitely go and check if it was true. In this way, they naturally didn't need to explain too clearly. It was better to let the person involved experience it personally. Otherwise, if they said too much, the other party might think that they were just scaring them. After the various forces disclosed the news, they all took their leave, saying that their doors would always be open for the four of them. After they left, Uncle Long and the other three in the living room stared at each other for a long time before Uncle Long spoke first. Do you guys believe what they said? I don't think they have any reason to lie to us, but they might not tell us the truth. After thinking for a while, Ming Ji told him the truth. What should we do now? We can't possibly be trapped here forever, right? Uncle Long furrowed his brows and said in a speechless manner. If he had known that this would happen, he would have waited for Shuai to come along. If he really couldn't go home, he would really lose all his face. Uncle Long was very worried. I definitely can't be trapped here forever. I miss my son. Ice Spirit said guiltily. The situation was unclear this time, so he had entrusted his son to Mu Li. He hadn't seen his son for such a long time, and he didn't know if his son missed him. He really missed Bing Yao. Uncle Long and the others sympathized with Ice Spirit when they heard him. Although they didn't have a son, they still wanted to have someone else. In the end, the four of them decided to go to the city gate to take a look. There was only one gate in the huge city of abandoned ruins. Let's try to get out first. However, after trying, they were really depressed, because when the four of them walked to the city gate as if there was no one else around and intended to leave, they were directly stopped by the guards. After knowing their intentions, the guard laughed in a very lecherous manner. I want to go out. I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to leave the City of Desolation. Lord Guard, can't you make an exception? Hearing this, Uncle Long pretended to be weak and asked pitifully. We can't. The guard refused without even thinking. Then how can we get out of the city? I don't believe there's no way out of the city. Seeing that the other party had refused, Ming Ji pretended to be angry. Thanks, there is a way, but no normal person would do that. The guard looked at the four of them and said with a smile that was not a smile. Why don't you tell me? Minga asked, interested. If the four of you want to leave the city, you must first win in all the arenas, and then each of you must pay 10 million top-grade crystals. Once these two conditions are met, you can leave the city safely. The guard said with a smirk. 10 million top-grade crystals. Your sister. This was definitely daylight robbery. The four of them were dumbfounded when they heard the price. Isn't this a little too expensive? Wouldn't the four of them be worth 40 million? It was still a top-grade crystal. Humph. Even if they had it, they wouldn't give it to him. Who would be this foolish spendthrift? If you really want to leave the city, you can go home and prepare now. I wish you good luck in advance. Seeing the four of them remain silent, the guard naturally assumed that they had been frightened by him and happily continued to hit them when they were down. Uncle Long and the other three took a deep look at the guard before leaving the city gate with wooden expressions and stiffly walking back. When they arrived at the door, a certain burly man was anxiously waiting at the door. When he saw them return, he quickly flew over and shouted, "My four brothers, you're back. What are you doing here?" Uncle Long couldn't help but ask. I heard that you brothers want to leave. Are you going to abandon your little brother? Sob. It wasn't easy for me to have these brothers, how could you leave me? The burly man choked with sobs as he spoke, and his words also made Uncle Long and the other three feel confused. When did they become this guy's brothers? And even abandon him? So what if he really abandoned them? They weren't this fool's biological father or brother. Woo! You can't escape. The burly man continued while sobbing. Hearing this, Uncle Long was so angry that he kicked the other party's butt. The burly man was not mentally prepared and directly fell flat on his face. However, after he fell, he quickly got up and said with a fawning face, "Beating is affection, scolding is love. Brothers, you won't leave me, right?" Uncle Long didn't know what to say when he saw how he was acting like a lackey. He realized that this fool really needed a beating. Moreover, after being beaten up, he would still eagerly come up to her. If this wasn't being cheap, what was it? Yes, I will. Uncle Long nodded. Brother. It's not that easy to leave this place. Why are you all so depressed? Isn't it good to live here? With me protecting you, I won't forget about any good things. The burly man said with a sincere expression. You'll protect us. Upon hearing this, Uncle Long sized him up with a faint smile. The burly man's heart suddenly trembled and he quickly changed his words, "No. My brothers are protecting me. However, I've been here longer than you, so I can still give you some advice." This sounds like a human sentence. Now, tell me, why can't we leave? Uncle Long asked. Because in history, no one who has come to the city of abandoned ruins has ever left successfully. Those who want to leave will usually die. The burly man stammered and said with a trembling voice. Chapter 2907, Are you guys abandoning your little brother? 2. Didn't you say that you can leave after you pay the exit fee and finish the battle? Did you not want us to leave, so you deliberately lied to us that only death would await us? Uncle Long said with a look of disbelief. The burly man felt that he had been injured. How could her brother say that? Although they did not get along well in the beginning, hadn't he already turned over a new leaf? How could her brother still doubt his character? Woo, she had a fragile heart. It was so broken that it couldn't even stick together. Brother, how would I dare to lie to you? The dead end I was talking about was the arena. In fact, there was only one kind of people who were willing to fight, and that was those who were extremely short of money. On the arena, those people were no different from desperados. There were no rules on the stage. The experts on the arena would definitely die on the arena, so it was quite bloody and terrifying. Big brother, please don't go and fight. We're not short of money, so why should we risk our lives with them? Don't you think so? After saying this, the burly man simply threw himself at Uncle Long's feet and hugged his thigh. Uncle Long's mouth twitched when he saw this. He kicked the burly man away again, but the burly man quickly crawled back and continued to hug Uncle Long's leg. After repeating this a few times, Uncle Long ran out of patience and shouted, "You're hugging my leg. Do you think I won't kick you back to your hometown? Brother! My dear brother! Don't do this to my little brother, I'm just worried about you. I'm telling the truth, if you don't believe me, how about I take you to the arena to see it for yourself?" Seeing that he couldn't convince Uncle Long, the burly man had no choice but to throw out this bait. Hearing this, Uncle Long turned to look at Ice Soul and the other two. Then, he nodded and said, "All right, take us there." When they came back from the city gate, they had also wanted to go to the arena to take a look. Unfortunately, no one had introduced them, so they were not allowed to enter the arena. Now that there was a ready-made candidate, Uncle Long would naturally not let it go. Seeing that Uncle Long had agreed, the burly man quickly let go of Uncle Long's thigh. Then, he got up and said excitedly, "Brothers, please follow me." Uncle Long and the other three were brought to the entrance of the arena. The burly man only showed a token and was allowed to enter. Of course, this included them, who were slightly brought in. This made the four of them feel a little unbalanced. It seemed that it was impossible to be like a fish in water in the city of abandoned ruins without joining any forces. Entering the arena, the light inside was very narrow. They were directly brought to the second underground floor by the burly man. As soon as they reached the second floor, they could feel the fiery atmosphere in the hall. At this moment, two people were dueling on a high platform in the middle of the hall. One of them was already covered in wounds and was on the verge of death. However, his opponent did not seem to have any intention of stopping and kept punching him. The blood on his body flowed through the small holes on the edge of the platform and into the ground. Uncle Long couldn't help frowning at the bloody scene in front of him. It was just an arena, did he have to beat the person to death like this? In the audience, many people's hot blood had already been roused, and they were shouting loudly, "Kill him! Kill him!" The atmosphere was so heated and passionate that it was beyond the imagination of Uncle Long and the others. The burly man glanced at Uncle Long and the other three's expressions and led them to a private room. "This place belongs to my faction. Are you satisfied?" The burly man asked fawningly. "Is this your boss order?" Uncle Long said. "Hee hee." The burly man laughed foolishly and did not answer directly. "Thanks, big brother, we're doing this for your own good. Boss loves talent and really doesn't want you to die in the arena. That's not worth it. Only the lower class will come here to fight. We just need to be spectators, what do you think?" Seeing that Uncle Long and the others didn't say anything, the burly man had to say something. "But we want to leave this place," Uncle Long said, pretending to be in a difficult position. "Why do we have to leave this place?" The burly man didn't understand and looked at Uncle Long and the other three with a resentful expression. They really wanted to abandon him so badly. Why not leave? "Do you want to be trapped here forever?" Uncle Long asked instead of answering. "We're not trapped here. We're here because this place is safe," the burly man said matter-of-factly. Uncle Long and the other three were speechless when they heard that it was safe here. The fool in front of him had been completely brainwashed. How is this place safe? There were battles and deaths every day. To the four of them, this was the place with the least security. Of course, the enemies of the people living here would definitely not be willing to come here for revenge. It was not worth it. "Brother, all the powerful people in the city of abandoned ruins have filed a case in the city lord's mansion. Although we are not the official guards of the city lord's mansion, we are still supernumerary personnel. So if anyone bullies us, the city lord's mansion will definitely stand up for us." The burly man saw that Uncle Long and the others didn't seem to believe him, so he continued to expose. "A supernumerary personnel of the city lord's mansion?" Hearing this, Uncle Long and the other three looked at each other, but no one took the initiative to respond. Seeing this, the burly man could only say, with the identity of supernumerary personnel, our status in the city of deserted ruins will naturally be different from others. There will be more benefits, which is why I strongly recommend you to join a force. It will definitely be beneficial. I will not lie to you. You're not lying to us. Then who lied to us? Uncle Long and the others did not know what to say when they saw the burly man acting like a charlatan who was trying to abduct believers. Were they so stupid that they would be proud of being supernumerary personnel of the city lord's mansion in the city of forsaken ruins? How stupid would they be then? However, it was clear that the city lord's management here was quite successful. How much effort did it take to brainwash the other party so cleanly? This fool was the entire city lord's brainless fan. After that, Bingpa smiled and said, "We've received too much information today. Let's think about it." After that, the four of them focused on the battle in the ring. At this moment, the battle they had seen earlier had ended. One party had finally lost his breath and was carried down. In the next few matches, there was also a death. Such a result made the four of them immediately pay attention. Didn't one side lose? Why do you have to kill him? Minga asked, pretending to be curious. This is the arena of life and death. The fight will not stop until you see a corpse. The burly man explained, then he said with a worried look, "Brother, this arena is really dangerous. I really don't want you to fight, so you have to consider it carefully." "We will," Uncle Long promised. After watching the arena, it was already close to evening. The burly man enthusiastically wanted to treat his four brothers to a meal, but they did not have much of an appetite. After politely declining, they directly returned to their residence. Chapter 2908, Are you guys abandoning your little brother? 3. When they got home, the four of them gathered in the living room. No one said a word, and the atmosphere was quite heavy. After a long time, Ming Ji couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Why don't you say something? What do we do now?" "I don't know. In fact, the strength of those people in the ring is not that high, but I'm afraid that someone might play tricks and divide us into opponents. At that time, wouldn't we have to kill each other?" Uncle Long said after thinking for a while. His words were exactly what the other three people were worried about. They were companions, so of course they couldn't attack their companions like the barbarians in the arena. But if they really became opponents, it wouldn't be up to them. This was definitely not something the four of them wanted to see. "Why don't we wait and see if there's any other way to leave? If that little phoenix can escape from here, there's no reason why the four of us can't." Seeing that the atmosphere had become even gloomier, Minga couldn't help but ask. His words also reminded Uncle Long and the other two. That's right. How did the little phoenix leave? If leaving the City of Desolation was as they had expected, it would be difficult for the little phoenix to leave with its strength. Thinking up to this point, Uncle Dragon hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Mu Li, who was in Demon City. After informing him of the situation, Uncle Dragon focused on waiting for Mu Li's reply. After receiving Uncle Long's message, Mu Li was depressed. Not only did he not get much information, but how did he get involved? He then ordered the White Tiger Great Elder to bring Qing-er over. Seeing Qing-er, Mu Li asked directly, "How did you leave the city of abandoned ruins?" "The three great ancestors helped me escape, but they didn't manage to escape." Qing-er replied honestly when she heard Mu Li's question. "You're saying that they brought you out by force?" Mu Li narrowed her eyes and asked. "Yes." After that, the city lord's residence was alerted. "They told me to leave first and told me to look for Len Ruoxue if they had any problems. I thought they would be able to meet up with me soon, but I waited for a long time near the city of abandoned relics and they didn't come out. I know they must have been caught by the city lord." As Qing-er spoke, her beautiful phoenix eyes were filled with tears again, making her look extremely pitiful. Unfortunately, Mu Li was an unromantic person. Seeing the other party cry, not only did he not have any thoughts of pity, but he also felt a little annoyed. He sneered and said, "You're really bold. You left the city of abandoned ruins and you still dare to loiter around. aren't you afraid of being caught again? I'm very careful. Qing explained. Then how did you offend the city lord of the city of abandoned ruins? Mu Li asked again. The city lord's son discovered my identity as a phoenix and wanted me to be his contract beast. Of course, I wouldn't allow it, so I injured him. Qing voice became softer and softer as she lowered her head, not daring to look at Mu Li, and then? Mu Li continued to ask. When the ancestors found out, they decided to let me leave that place. However, it was easy to enter but difficult to leave, so they brought me to force my way in. They didn't come out after sending me away. When Qing said this, her voice couldn't be any softer, but with Mu Li's hearing, he could still hear it clearly. Why didn't you say this earlier? Mu Li suppressed her anger and asked. Damn it! If the little phoenix had explained the situation to them earlier, would Ming Ji and the other three have been trapped in the City of Desolation? Looking at Qing in front of him, Mu Li's anger rose. You guys didn't ask me. Qing retorted. You're not going to tell me if I don't ask. I've told you that we're not familiar with the City of Abandoned Ruins. Why didn't you tell us everything? Mu Li gritted his teeth and asked. If they were in the Nine Nether prison, he would have killed Qing long ago. However, this was the immortal realm. Even if he wanted to do something, he could not do it. This made him quite depressed. It's not too late to explain now. You're not willing to save our ancestor anyway. Hearing this, Qing anger rose. At this moment, an extremely fast blue light flew to Qing side, and directly pounced on Qing body, kicking and biting, and constantly shouting, You bad woman, return my father. Return my father. Are you crazy? Go away, stinky Qilin. Qing raised her hand to pull the Qilin away from her, but the ice phoenix bit her arm and refused to let go. Qing felt the pain, and her actions became more rough. Mu Li saw this and quickly stopped her. Stop. I won't let you go if you dare to touch a single hair of Bing Yao. Thanks, did you make a mistake? It's biting me. Hearing this, Qing was so angry that her heart, liver, spleen, lung, and kidney all hurt. Today, she finally knew what it meant to be unreasonable. You can't be like this even if you want to protect your own people, right? Qing felt that she was very innocent, but Mu Li only coldly glanced at her, then took the somewhat crazy ice phoenix from Qing's body and comforted her in a gentle voice. Bing Yao, be good, your father will be fine. Calm down. Seeing Mu Li speak so gently to the Qilin, Qing suddenly felt a little unbalanced. She was the one who was injured and bitten, okay? However, not only did she not get any words of comfort, but she was also despised. At this moment, she deeply felt that the people of Demon City were bullies. No, they were bullies. Seeing through Qing's thoughts, Mu Li sneered, It's not wrong for it to bite you, because you're the one who's guilty. After speaking, Mu Li carried the emotionally unstable Bing Yi and wanted to leave, but Qing blocked him with a stubborn face and asked, What do you mean? Speak clearly. Seeing Qing's overbearing appearance, the White Tiger Great Elder, who had been watching from the side, broke out in a cold sweat. Although he didn't know what had happened, he guessed that something must have happened when he saw the attitude of the city lord of Muley City and Bing Yao. At this moment, Mu Li turned to look at Qing. Make it clear. Because you didn't report it, 4 powerhouses from Demon City are trapped in the City of Forsaken Desolation, including Bing Yi's father. Don't you think he should hate you? How is this possible? When did you go to the City of Abandoned Ruins? Why didn't I know about it? Qing's face turned pale when she heard this. Do I dare to let you know? This time, they are only there to find out the situation. It is not easy to save people from the City of Abandoned Ruins because it is the territory of the fog ice. Mu Li sighed and coldly said. But how could they be trapped? They shouldn't be weak, right? Qing mumbled in disbelief. He's not weak. He can force his way out, but that won't do. Mu Li said honestly. Why can't I? Qing didn't understand. Little last Qing that will only alert the enemy. If we alert the mist ripple bitch, their lives will be in danger. Without waiting for Mu Li's reply, the White Tiger Great Elder spoke first. What do we do now? Qing Er's face turned pale when she heard this. She was at a loss. Although she really wanted the other party to save the three ancestors, she didn't think that it would alert the enemy. More importantly, she only found out today that the City of Desolation was Wu Wan's territory. Thinking of what Wu Wan had done to the Phoenix clan, she became even more panicked. First Elder White Tiger, please take her away. Mu Li didn't answer Qing Er's question and asked her to leave. No, don't. I don't want to leave. Tell me, what should I do now? From afar, they could still hear Qing Er's uneasy voice. However, Mu Li ignored it and continued to comfort her father. However, no matter how Mu Li tried to explain, Bing Yao remained silent. In the end, Mu Li had no choice but to tell Bing Po about Bing Yao's condition. Bing Po's heart ached when he heard that. He immediately sent a message to Bing Jie. After consoling her for a long time, Bing Yao finally recovered a little. Still worried, Ice Spirit did not forget to remind Mu Li to keep a close eye on Bing Yao in case this little guy ran away from home. It had to be said that a father understood his son very well. After knowing that her father was trapped, Bing Yao did have such thoughts, but Mu Li was watching her closely and guarding her closely, so she didn't even have the chance to escape. After a few unsuccessful attempts, it had no choice but to give up. After knowing that Qing had been sent out by the three Phoenix clan's ancestors, Uncle Long and the other three had temporarily given up on the idea of leaving this place, and had decided to take things as they came. After all, they could not copy the three old phoenixes. If their identities were exposed, Demon City would become very dangerous. At the same time, Len Ruoxue, who was in the chaotic world, was fighting with a piece of ore. This ore wasn't the one that liked to self-destruct, but another unremarkable black stone that seemed easy to bully. Of course, the reason why this stone had provoked her was not because the other party was stubborn. Instead, it was because the other party was too unprincipled and easily melted. As such, it had naturally increased the difficulty of Len Ruoxue's weapon refinement. Especially after she had studied the ore that liked to self-destruct with great difficulty. The appearance of this stone naturally made her previous efforts go to waste. Len Ruoxue glared at the black stone in her hand. The more she looked at it, the more hatred she felt. She remained silent for a long time, scaring the few professionals so much that they did not even dare to breathe. Wu Shuai was so scary when she was silent. And now, she had been silent for a long time. Even the mistress of the dark world couldn't stand Shuai's silent appearance and went into hiding. That. Should they also hide? Just as they were lamenting, they suddenly saw a cold and terrifying dagger appear in Shuai's hand. Then, they saw her holding the dagger and stabbing it into her own snow-white palm. Oh my God! What was he doing? Self-harm? Chapter 2909, I Want to Rob Him. 1. Len Ruoxue's actions frightened the Grand Elder and the others so much that their hearts were palpitating. It's not a big deal. As for self-mutilating? In the next second, a few of them immediately charged towards Len Ruoxue. One of them snatched the knife from Len Ruoxue's hand while the other snatched the stone from her hand. The Armament Guild headquarters Grand Elder glared at Len Ruoxue with a stern expression and roared, "Stinky girl, it's not a big deal. How can you take things so hard?" Len Ruoxue was confused by the Weapon Craftsman Guild's first elder's words. Why did she take things so hard? No, I have to go find the Dark Lord. You really make me worry. Seeing that Len Ruoxue didn't say anything, the Armament Guild headquarters Grand Elder assumed that Shuai was feeling guilty. He then pulled Shuai's hand and was about to leave. What is it? At this moment, the demon happened to walk in from outside and asked. Shuai wants to self-harm. Lu Feng rushed to say. What? The demon's expression changed when he heard this. He then turned his sharp gaze towards Len Ruoxue and said, Shuai, is what Lu Feng said true? What do you think? Leng Ruoxue rolled her eyes speechlessly. Now, she finally understood First Elder and the others' reaction. They thought she was going to hurt herself. Leng Ruoxue was a little confused. Did she look like the kind of person who would hurt herself? The evidence is still here. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue seemed to be trying to deny it, Lu Feng added. He was the one who had gone up to snatch the dagger, and at this moment, the dagger was still in his hands. Shuer, what's going on? The demon sighed and asked. He naturally didn't believe that Shuer would harm herself, but such a terrifying thing had to be clarified, or else he would feel uneasy. I just wanted to use a knife to cut open the stone to see its internal structure. Who knew that they would have such a rich imagination? Leng Ruoxue was helpless. This black dragon had caused quite a ruckus. When the few professionals present heard that they had misunderstood, their faces immediately turned red. The first elder of the craftsmen's main guild even said weakly, "Girl, you can't use a dagger to scare people." They had truly thought that Shuer had gone mad from anger because of the ore, and that was why she had taken things too hard. Who knew that it was actually their own imagination that had overdone it? This was too embarrassing. All right. I was wrong. Leng Ruoxue apologized sincerely. Please remove, okay. Lu Feng was a little annoyed. It's my fault, okay. Leng Ruoxue obediently changed her words. You're not allowed to have one, alright? Lu Feng roared. You're really hard to serve. Leng Ruoxue glanced at Lu Feng with a half-smile on her face, and he was so scared that he didn't even dare to breathe. In fact, he was just frustrated and depressed after being embarrassed. Otherwise, he would not talk to Shuer like this usually. Thanks especially under the Dark Lord's covetous eyes, Lu Feng felt a lot of pressure. Lu Feng, who almost couldn't stand it, dejectedly found an excuse and left. The other professionals did not stay any longer. They did not even find an excuse and left immediately. After the light bulbs had left, the demon did not hesitate to carry Leng Ruoxue in his arms. He asked worriedly, Shuer, are you feeling too much pressure? Although the materials used for tool refining were much less than those used for pill refining, the hardness of the materials was not the same. Sometimes, it was required to put several materials at the same time. If the control was not good, the materials could be wasted. Up until now, Shuer had destroyed quite a few materials, which was why he suspected that Shuer's heart ached for the materials. Don't worry about the materials, he said. If you don't have enough, ask Xiaotian. He must have more. It's not that I'm distressed about the material. I really want to see the structure of this material. You see, it's soft and basically turns into a liquid when it's placed in the pill furnace. And this material can't be put in last, so I'm curious what kind of special characteristics it has. And how did Master manage to control this fire back then? Leng Ruoxue explained helplessly as she showed the demon the black stone. The stone was so soft, a little like pudding, but it was tougher than pudding. It wouldn't break even if she used her hands, so she wanted to try it out with a knife. Who knew that before she could even succeed, it would cause a misunderstanding? Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the demon also took the black stone and squeezed it. It was just as Shuer had said, soft. He then used his hands to pull the stone. The stone was pulled more than 10 centimeters away, but the stone was still intact. This stone is quite fun. The demon seemed to be addicted to it and kept on pulling. Leng Ruoxue was at a loss for words when she saw him having so much fun. How did this person in front of her suddenly turn into a senior kindergarten student? He was helpless. He was extremely helpless. When the demon was done playing, he returned the stone to her and said, Shuer, you've been refining pills and weapons for so many years. You must be tired. Why don't we go out and take a walk? All right, he said. Thinking that the evildoer was going to kidnap her to spend some alone time with him, Leng Ruoxue agreed without thinking. Then can you send me into the bracelet? The demon laughed evilly. Why? Don't we still need to go to your birthplace? Len Ruoshua asked in surprise. I didn't know Shuai liked my birthplace so much. However, we're not going there this time. We're going back to the divine realm. The demon laughed and teased. Divine realm? The heaven-earth law won't let you go, right? Len Ruoshua was a little worried. Who cares? When the time comes, it'll just hide my aura and change my appearance. The demon said disapprovingly. In fact, if it wasn't for the obstruction of the laws of heaven and earth, he would have run back to the immortal realm long ago. Now that Shuai was here, he naturally didn't have Gu Jia anymore. At most, he could just stay in the bracelet. More importantly, the laws of the heaven and earth had been missing for so long. He believed that that fellow must have been trying to hide from them. Who would have thought that he would return to the god world with Shuai? More importantly, he wasn't afraid even if the regulations of the heaven and earth discovered his whereabouts. Now, that fellow's restraint on Shuai was getting weaker and weaker. Last time, he even thought of the stupid way to trick Uncle Long and the others into being hostages. It was clear that he had run out of ideas. It was for these reasons that the demon felt that as long as he moved a little, that guy couldn't do anything to him even if he found out. And his decision to return to the divine realm was also a decision he made after careful consideration. Seeing that Shuai was a little frustrated because of the lack of materials, his heart really ached, so he wanted to take Shuai to relax. If he wanted to relax, the divine realm would definitely be a good place. Most importantly, that was Shuai's home. It had everything Shuai had and the people she was familiar with. With them around, it would definitely distract Shuai's attention and calm her heart. However, returning to the divine realm also meant that he and Shuai would have to be stuck with countless third wheels. However, for Shuai's sake, he could endure. Then let's go back to the divine realm. I've been away from home for so long, I miss home too. Seeing how confident the demon was, Len Ruoshua naturally had no reason to object. Chapter 29:10, I want to rob him, too. At this moment, the voice of the Armament Guild headquarters Grand Elder was transmitted into the armament refining room. Shuai, we're all done. Hearing this, Len Ruoshua raised her head and looked at the evildoer who was smiling widely. She understood what was going on. Len Ruoshua only stepped out of the refining room after she had placed the demon into her bracelet. At this moment, the first elder of the Craftsmen's Guild and a few others were already waiting outside. Len Ruoshua moved them into the bracelet as well. Then, she went to the demon's palace next door to take a look and realized that it had long been empty. Len Ruoshua, who understood the situation, pulled out the sleeping azure and woke it up. Sung rubbed his eyes and yawned. Girl, are you done with your work? The Hotian Chaos divine weapon has not been refined yet. However, let's return to the divine realm first. After all, we've been out for so long. Len Ruoshua smiled. That's good. Azure nodded, he was also a little homesick. With that, it covered Len Ruoshua with its divine power and teleported away. When she reached the edge of the land of chaos, Len Ruoshua soon felt a wave of dizziness. When she opened her eyes again, she had already returned to the divine realm. The moment he arrived in the god world, the demon had Len Ruoshua move him out. After coming out, the demon had already changed his appearance and his aura had been sealed again. He glared at evildoer and said in a bad mood, teleport back to Demon City with Nyo. I'm going to sleep. After hearing Tsung's words, evildoer carefully sized Tsung up before exclaiming in surprise, you're already so fat, and you're still sleeping? Yes, go to sleep. Go to sleep. It's best if you don't wake up. You bastard. You're the fat one. Your whole family is fat. You're the one who will never wake up. Evildoer's words greatly provoked Azure, causing him to roar like a cat. If I can't wake up, Shuai will kiss me awake. The demon was neither angry nor annoyed, and he said with a calm smile. My ass. If that day really comes, don't even think that the one who will wake you up with a kiss will be Shuai. Azure almost vomited when he heard evildoer's shameless words, but he still smirked. What, you want to wake me up with a kiss? Hearing Tsang's words, evil demon started teasing him. Your sister. I won't do that. Tsang, who was being teased, jumped up and down in anger, almost pouncing on evildoer and scratching his face. Hearing this, the demon seemed to be quite disappointed. That's really your loss. Tsang Mo, this guy's shameless skills are gradually rising. As for Leng Ruoxue, who was ignored by the side, when she heard the conversation between the man and the beast, her forehead was filled with black lines. Could these two people not be so childish? He was actually playing with the story of Sleeping Beauty. However, the sleeping appearance of this demon was really quite attractive. At the thought of this, Leng Ruoxue cast a deep glance at the demon. Instantly, the demon was so frightened that his little heart started to tremble. Shuer wouldn't be jealous, right? Otherwise, why would she look at him with such an evil gaze? The demon was a little uneasy, and he couldn't help but shout in his heart, Shuer, I was just joking, don't take it seriously. Shuer, let's go. Well, return to Demon City and greet Uncle Dragon and the others first, then we'll travel around the Divine Realm. This was called cultivating in pleasure. With the integration of intelligence and physical strength, I can guarantee twice the result with half the effort when refining weapons. After a while, the evildoer changed the topic and said proudly. Thanks. Leng Ruoxue nodded her head and cooperated by allowing the demon to teleport her away. Very quickly, the two of them directly teleported into the Leng family's main residence. After appearing in the garden, Leng Ruoxue saw Mu Li, who was sitting in the garden, staring at her with an extremely strange look. She was speechless and said, What, you don't recognize me? Why, you're really Leng Ruoxue? Mu Li stuttered. Oh my god. If the woman in front of him was really Leng Ruoxue, then who was the man beside her? Could it be that Leng Ruoxue had an affair and betrayed her master? This truth was too terrifying. Thinking of this possibility, Mu Li's face immediately turned pale. Seeing that Mu Li had said this and seemed to be in shock, Leng Ruoxue did not know what to say. However, she still nodded her head patiently and said, I'm really Leng Ruoxue. I'm the real deal. Then who is he? Seeing that Leng Ruoxue had admitted to it, Mu Li pointed at the evildoer and asked. He's my man, Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Your man. These three words made Mu Li's heart almost go on strike. There were very few women in the world who could be so bold and confident after having a relationship with someone else. Mu Li had never dreamed that Leng Ruoxue would actually dare to admit it and even say that the ugly man was her man. Was this a heaven-defying rhythm? Woo! His lord definitely doesn't know about this. If he did, how sad would he be? Looking at Leng Ruoxue with a face full of hatred, Mu Li's imagination started to run wild. Leng Ruoxue was confused by Mu Li's sudden look of hatred. She turned to look at the demon and asked, Mu Li, do you have any opinions about me? Right. I'm so against you. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Mu Li was enraged. Leng Ruoxue was a little confused. How had she offended Mu Li? Seeing Leng Ruoxue's blank face and her unrepentant look, Mu Li was so angry that she shouted again, My lord has become Little Tian's sworn enemy because of you. How could you do something to let him down? Leng Ruoxue was dumbfounded by Mu Li's roar. When had she done anything to let down the evildoer? She could eat whatever she wanted, but she couldn't say whatever she wanted. This was related to her reputation. When did I ever do anything to let him down? Leng Ruoxue couldn't take it anymore and asked directly. The demon was also curious about this matter. After looking at Shuer, he turned his gaze back to Mu Li. He believed in Shuer, just as Shuer believed in him. However, Mu Li's reaction didn't seem to be a lie. Otherwise, Mu Li wouldn't be so agitated. In an instant, he felt that it was better to wait and see. You already have another man, and you still say you haven't done anything to let my master down? Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was not going to admit it again, Mu Li was furious. He had brought the evidence back, yet he still dared to deny it. The furious Mu Li turned around and pointed the spear at the demon and roared, "I don't care where a wild man like you came from, but this woman belongs to my master. If you still want to live, you'd better get lost now. Otherwise, my lord and I will not let you off." Upon hearing this, Len Ruoxue and the demon looked at each other. The demon's eyes seemed to be saying, "The wild man he's talking about is me?" Len Ruoxue used her eyes to reply, "It was you." Now, she finally understood why Mu Li's reaction was so intense. He had treated the demon as a wild man. However, shouldn't a subordinate who knows how to protect his master's food be praised? Chapter 29:11, I want to rob him. 3. Len Ruoxue smiled faintly. "Mu Li, I admire your spirit. However, you haven't even found out who this person is and you're already so sure that I have a wild man. This is very unfair to me. The evidence is right here, and you still dare to deny it? Len Ruoxue, my master is so good to you. You're devoted to him, but how did you treat him? Not only did you have an affair behind his back, you even brought your wild man home." "Humph. It's fine if I didn't know, but since I've seen it, I can't just let this matter go. I want to represent the Lord to duel with you, wild man, or I die. Either he dies. Do you dare to accept?" The more Mu Li thought about it, the angrier he became. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his poor master was not worth it. In his heart, there was already a scene of his master being heartbroken after learning about this. These words made Len Ruoxue's face darken even more. Looking at Mu Li, Len Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh. As expected of a city lord. The level of this upvoting was high. A duel? Wouldn't rest until one of them died? What the hell is this? Len Ruoxue would never have thought that the first thing she would do after returning would be to face Mu Li's madness. Should she say that Mu Li's reaction was so slow that he couldn't even recognize her master, or should she say that the demon's disguise was too successful? Of course, the disguise pill that the demon had taken was refined by her. Thinking about it this way, it seemed that she still had the greatest credit. "Don't go crazy, it's embarrassing." Seeing Mu Li's words becoming more and more outrageous, Shuai'er's face was filled with helplessness. The demon quickly reprimanded him in case this idiot said something even more outrageous. At that time, if Shuai'er wanted to take revenge on him, he would not plead for him. In the face of a dispute between his dear wife and his subordinates, the evildoer decisively chose to put his beauty over his subordinates. Mu Li saw that the man beside Len Ruoxue had spoken and was about to shout back at her. However, she suddenly realized that this man's voice sounded like her master's. "Len Ruoxue, is this wild man my master's substitute?" he asked after some thought. "Why do you say that?" Len Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked in confusion. When the evildoer heard the word substitute, his face turned dark, as if a storm was about to come. Being treated as a substitute by an idiot still made the evildoer quite unhappy. "His voice is too similar to my master's." Mu Li dispelled her doubts and said, "Len Ruoxue, even if you miss my master, there's no need to find a substitute, right? If you do this, what will you do to my master? He's your lord." Len Ruoxue couldn't help but complain in her heart. However, she would never say such words out loud. Glancing at the evildoer, Len Ruoxue indicated, "Your subordinates can settle it themselves." The demon nodded helplessly and looked at Mu Li, "Idiot. How could I have such a stupid subordinate like you?" "Ah. What did you just say?" Mu Li felt that he was hallucinating and asked in a daze. "I said, why do I have such a stupid subordinate like you?" The demon gritted his teeth and roared. "Arg! Master. Are you the Lord?" Mu Li blinked her eyes and asked in disbelief. "Nonsense. You can't even recognize me?" The demon was speechless and didn't know what to say. Fortunately, there was a contract between the two of them. Didn't this guy sense it? In fact, Mu Li really didn't feel it. The moment he saw Len Ruoxue, he saw her in the arms of an ugly man. He was so angry that he ran away. How could he have thought that the wild man beside Leng Ruoxue was his master? Are you really the Lord? Mu Li felt the connection between him and the demon, and then exclaimed, My lord, what happened to your face? I've changed my appearance, sighing, the evildoer replied honestly. Wu. Master, why did you change your appearance out of the blue? You even caused me to misunderstand. Mu Li knew that he was in the wrong, so his voice became softer and softer. In the end, he lowered his head. Wu, I made a mistake. He actually did such a stupid thing, he really shouldn't have done it. Mu Li felt so embarrassed. He really wished there was a hole in the ground for him to crawl into. At this moment, seeing that the truth of the matter had been revealed to the world, Bing Yao, who had been shocked by Mu Li's anger, finally dared to jump into Leng Ruoxue's arms. She sobbed, Little Xue, save your father. What happened to your father? Leng Ruoxue asked in shock after hearing Bing Yao's words. Bing Pe, Uncle Long, Dong Fangyu, and Ming Ji are all trapped in the city of abandoned ruins. Seeing that Bing Yao had successfully distracted Leng Ruoxue's attention, Mu Li hurriedly continued the conversation and gave Bing Yao a few likes in his heart. Good child, I didn't dote on you for nothing. She knew to help him out. The city of the abandoned? What is this place? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. You don't know this place either? Mu Li was astonished. Wasn't Leng Ruoxue from the God world? It sounds familiar, but I can't remember where I've heard it. Leng Ruoxue said honestly. Ah. Mu Li was silent for a moment, then continued, the city of the abandoned ruins is a place that takes in trash. Your two beasts must have been caught by the city lord. The four of them went to find out about the situation, but they didn't know that they were not allowed to leave. Oh. It's not that you're not allowed to leave, but you have to pay an expensive exit fee. Mu Li deeply felt that this should be the main reason why the four people gave up on the arena. How much do I have to pay? Leng Ruoxue asked. In her heart, she was calculating. Did Uncle Long and the others run out of money? It looked like she and the evildoer had to go and pick her up. 10 million top-grade crystals per person. Mu Li didn't dare to hide anything. How much? Leng Ruoxue thought that she must have heard wrong. It definitely wasn't 10 million supreme-grade crystal stones. But after Mu Li repeated it again, she was sure that her hearing was normal. Thanks, Uncle Long. Did they stay willingly? After confirming, Leng Ruoxue said with certainty. Ah. How do you know? Mu Li's eyes widened as she looked at Leng Ruoxue with a fawning expression. Uncle Long and the others definitely won't be willing to spend so much money. Leng Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. That. In addition to money, they also need to defeat all the rings before they can leave. That's why they decided to stay there for the time being. Mu Li explained. Oh. By the way, who are the two beastie that I caught? Knowing that Uncle Long and the rest would be fine, Leng Ruoxue then asked about the two beasties' situation with a peace of mind. At the same time, she was a little puzzled. Her own beastie had basically chosen to go into closed-door cultivation, so why would there be one loitering outside? Feng Miao, Feng Hua, and the sixth elder of the Phoenix clan. Mu Li obediently reported. It's them. When Leng Ruoxue heard these three people, she immediately recalled where the city of abandoned ruins was. Once, Feng Miao had sent her a voice transmission, saying that the three of them were heading to the city of abandoned ruins to go undercover there. At the same time, they were going to find out the locations of the three kings so that it would be easier to rescue them. When she found out, she had told them to be careful, but she did not expect something to happen. Is the city of abandoned ruins that powerful? Even 3 hierarch-level beasts were caught. Leng Ruoxue could not figure it out. Logically speaking, Feng Miao and the other two should be extremely careful. Could it be that someone had discovered his identity as a spy? Seeing that Leng Ruoxue's thoughts were running wild, Mu Li hurriedly reported the cause of the incident. After hearing this, Leng Ruoxue remained silent. Evildoer, let's go to the city of abandoned ruins. Don't tell Qing that I've returned. Leng Ruoxua looked at the demon and said. The last sentence was directed at Mu Li, little Xue, I'll go too. Bing Yao saw that Leng Ruoxua was about to leave and quickly said. Yes, Mu Li, you continue to look after the house. With that, Leng Ruoxua gave the demon a look and the two of them disappeared once again. Watching the two of them leave, Mu Li heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, it was safe. He hoped that when Leng Ruoxua returned, she would forget about the mishap he had caused. Shuer is back. Where is it? At this moment, Dongfang Lin, who had sensed Leng Ruoxua's aura, rushed over. However, he only saw Mu Li in the garden. She and the Lord went to the city of abandoned ruins. Mu Li said honestly. So fast. However, with Shuer gone, Big Brother and the others will be able to return safely. Dongfang Lin said in relief. Master is here too. Ming Ze's voice also sounded. Yes. Mu Li nodded, then went back to her room with a guilty look. At the same time, Leng Ruoxua and the demon had already walked far away. With the teleportation abilities of Genius and Azure, the team only took a month to reach the desert where Ice Soul and the others had been. Sang didn't say anything and released his pressure, scaring the small animals in the desert so much that they didn't dare to come out. Furthermore, the earth dragons in the desert had been almost wiped out by Uncle Long and Dongfang Yu. Hence, Leng Ruoxua and the demon managed to cross the desert without any hindrances. When they arrived at the city of abandoned ruins, they paid the entrance fee that made Leng Ruoxua's heart ache. Then, the two people and one beast headed straight to the place where they had agreed to meet with Uncle Long and the other three. Along the way, Leng Ruoxua had also changed her appearance. She had changed back into the image of a cute little rabbit. Uncle Long and the other three knew about this, so they set their sights on the rabbit. When they finally saw it sunder a white rabbit, the four of them immediately went up to it. Shuer. Uncle Long said in a low voice. Uncle Long? Leng Ruoxua asked carefully. It was as if the two of them had met in secret. When Leng Ruoxua saw this scene, she could not help but laugh to herself. However, when Uncle Long saw Leng Ruoxua, he felt a sense of closeness. Woo! Shuer really came at the right time. Otherwise, they would have been trapped here for a long time. Shuer, you've succeeded in forging a Hotian Chaos Divine artifact. Uncle Long did not expect Shuer to return to the Divine Realm so quickly, so he asked with great curiosity. No, I didn't. Leng Ruoxua replied gloomily. Arg. Then, why did you come back? Uncle Long didn't understand. What if he didn't have enough materials by the time he returned? I came back to relax. Leng Ruoxua replied honestly. Oh. That was true. After working so hard for so long, it's time to rest. Uncle Long nodded in agreement. More importantly, Shuer had returned at the right time. She was their savior. Uncle Long, I want to rob him. Leng Ruoxua nodded and lowered her voice.